He was once a war god, a protector of his country and home. Now he knelt on the ground in humiliation, bowing his head to beg this family for forgiveness. All because his daughter Minji had gotten into a fight with her classmate Hyuri. The teacher had informed Manager Kim this was already their third fight. Worse still, Hyuri's father was a man of influence and reputation in this town. To keep the matter from escalating, Manager Kim could do nothing but swallow his pride. Minji couldn't stand to see her father's weakness. She turned on her heel and ran off. Manager Kim hurried after her, asking with concern if she was hungry, if she wanted to come home for dinner. Minji didn't say a word, she just walked forward with her head down, her sense of grievance growing with every step. It wasn't even her fault, yet her father had to kneel and beg for forgiveness. Crying, she threw out a single line, "If you're this useless, you shouldn't have had me in the first place." She turned and disappeared from Manager Kim's sight. How could Minji possibly know that, for her sake, Manager Kim had once even held the highest military commander in Korea hostage, forcing him to approve his discharge from service. In the end, he agreed to unconditionally help the commander with one matter in exchange, and only then did he get his wish. Minji had intended to find a classmate, but on the way she was cornered by Hyuri against a wall. The two girls locked eyes and immediately started fighting. Before long, Hyuri's delinquent friends showed up, one of them sending Minji flying with a brutal kick. The thug walked over, grabbed her by the hair, and started beating her mercilessly. Hyuri, still furious, picked up a rock and rushed forward, smashing it hard against Minji's head. Even the thugs were taken aback, thinking this girl is vicious. Regaining his senses, the thug threatened the onlookers not to take photos or call the police, warning them of dire consequences if they did. Seeing the unconscious Minji, the thug hastily called his boss for help. As soon as the call connected, Hyuri snatched the phone away, coldly stating her father's name and telling them to bring someone to clean up the mess. Before long, the cleanup crew arrived. They stuffed Minji into the trunk, then left the scene with Hyuri and her. Meanwhile, Manager Kim sat at home alone, having prepared dinner, waiting for his daughter to come home and eat. He waited and waited until he fell asleep at the table. Suddenly, he was startled awake by a nightmare, as if hearing his daughter's desperate cries for help. He checked the time and realized Minji still hadn't come home, so Manager Kim hurried out the door. On the street, a crowd was gathered, whispering among themselves. Manager Kim walked over as well. From a distance, he spotted bloodstains on the ground, and then noticed Hyuri's hair tie. His heart sank. Had they fought again? Manager Kim immediately called Minji's classmate Hyuri on. Learning that Minji wasn't with her, an ominous premonition flooded his mind. Just then he spotted Hyuri and the thug chatting nearby. Manager Kim appeared behind them like a ghost, asking if they had seen Minji. The thug, hearing the name, instantly flew into a rage, grabbing Manager Kim by the collar and telling him to get lost. Manager Kim took out the hair tie, looked at Hyuri and asked, "This is yours, right?" Thinking she'd been found out, Hyuri trembled in fear. The thug, realizing they couldn't hide it, simply took off his shirt, exposing his tattooed body. He tried to threaten Manager Kim to leave at once, but Manager Kim stood there, utterly unmoved. The thug, growing annoyed, lunged forward and tore at Manager Kim's shirt, only to see the scars of knives and gunshots on his body. Both of them broke out in a cold sweat. Manager Kim didn't want to waste any more time. With a single punch, he knocked the thug to the ground. Then, using the hair tie, he strangled the thug by the neck, demanding to know where his daughter was. Following the thug's lead, he tracked down the territory of the gang boss Mincheol. At that moment, Mincheol was dealing with a deadbeat who owed him money, even threatening to use the man's daughter to pay off the debt, or else sell him for his organs. The terrified father, desperate to save his own life, could only watch helplessly as his daughter was dragged away by Mincheol. Just then, Manager Kim rang the doorbell politely. When no one answered, he simply pushed the door open and walked inside. He was immediately met by a gang member who came out to send him away, but Manager Kim didn't say a word. He knocked the man out on the spot. Hearing the commotion, Mincheol sensed trouble inside the house and waved at his chubby underling. The fat man understood at once, grabbed a baseball bat and stood guard by the door. The moment it opened, he swung hard. But Manager Kim was prepared. Using the underling as a shield, he dodged the blow with ease, then dropped the fat man to the ground with a single strike. He pulled out a rope he'd brought with him and, without hesitation, hoisted the nearly 300-pound man up, demanding to know where Minji was. The fat man was completely baffled. He had no idea who Minji was. Seeing that he was playing dumb, Manager Kim tightened the rope. The fat man howled in pain, glancing back for help, only to see his boss trying to slip away. Mincheol dove out the window, cursing himself for not having 2 more legs. But he didn't get far. He tripped over something and went sprawling. Looking up, he saw a barbed wire fence ahead and froze in place. Before he could react, Manager Kim was already on him, rope in hand, and after a savage beating, dragged him back inside. Mincheol confessed, All their contacts were made through anonymous chat rooms with every conversation automatically erased. Manager Kim asked how he'd made contact just now, but Min-cheol clamped his jaw shut in silence. Without hesitation, Manager Kim snapped Min-cheol's left arm, then followed up with a kick, sending him flying across the room. He opened his briefcase, dumped out all the papers, and revealed a handgun. Quickly, he loaded the magazine and attached a silencer, speaking as he walked. Lose your parents, you're an orphan. Lose your husband, you're a widow. But parents who lose a child, there's no name for that because they have nothing left. With that, he raised his gun and aimed at Min-cheol's underling. You've exhausted the last of my patience. With a bang, Min-cheol's underling had his manhood blown apart. Manager Kim ignored his agonized screams. Slowly, he gathered up the scattered papers. Once everything was in order, he turned back coldly and said, voice full of venom, if I didn't still believe Minji was alive, you'd all be dead by now. Manager Kim was about to pick up Min-cheol's phone and leave when the phone suddenly rang. Messages from the chat room popped up one after another, and the latest one shattered Manager Kim in an instant. A man who would give up everything for his daughter learned at that moment that she was already gone. He finally broke down, 2 dry tears streaming from his eyes. Still clinging to his last hope, Manager Kim held up the phone and demanded answers from Min-cheol. But Min-cheol could only stammer, unable to form a coherent sentence. Manager Kim's anger exploded. He grabbed Min-cheol by the throat, his voice twisted and threatening. Enough nonsense. Get to the point. Just then, the debtor from earlier suddenly lunged at Manager Kim with a knife. Min-cheol, seeing a sliver of hope, shouted excitedly for the man to stab again. He'd even forgive half the debt. But the knife never touched Manager Kim. It only wore down what little patience he had left. Just as Manager Kim was about to finish Min-cheol off, the police arrived, and mistaking him for the knife-wielding suspect, ordered him to drop his weapon. Manager Kim was filled with frustration, but could only surrender without resistance. Several people were taken to the police station to make statements. The thugs kept shifting the blame onto one another, while Manager Kim remained silent, not bothering to argue. Seeing Manager Kim's persistent silence, the captain decided to run his fingerprints. But the screen flashed a red block. There was no information to be found at all. The captain sighed, about to continue his questioning, when suddenly Manager Kim was kicked to the ground. A furious blow from the fat man. Other officers rushed to restrain the fat man, but he tried to use his weight to land another kick on Manager Kim. At that moment, 2 burly men approached, grinning menacingly. Hey kid, you sure like to make trouble. Want to play with us? The fat man instantly lost his nerve and fell silent. Just then, a phone rang on the table. The captain glanced at the caller ID. It belonged to one of the suspects, so he answered, reading aloud the name displayed, daughter. The moment Manager Kim heard this, his heart jolted, his pupils dilating in shock. Could it be his daughter was still alive? Overcome with emotion, he tried to rush over and grab the phone, but the officers held him back, telling him to calm down. Only to realize, stunned, that his handcuffs had already been unlocked. The captain, about to answer the call and ask another question, turned around, only to find that in the blink of an eye, everyone in the room had been knocked out. Before he could react, Manager Kim was already behind him, pinning him hard against the wall, and warning him in a chilling whisper not to make a sound. Then he picked up the phone, his voice trembling. Hello, is this Minji? As soon as the call connected, the other end hung up immediately. He dialed back again and again, but only got a busy tone, and soon after the phone was switched off. With no options left, Manager Kim could only leave the police station for now. He walked into a taekwondo studio and paused for a moment, watching the lively children. At that moment, Seong Hansu noticed him. He told the kids to take a break, then walked over and sat down next to Manager Kim. Long time no see, you wouldn't come here unless something serious happened, would you? And by the look on your face, it's no small matter. What's going on? Manager Kim lowered his gaze, his expression desolate. Some things happened to my daughter. Seong Hansu froze. What did you say? He pulled out his phone. I still don't know if she's alive or dead. But while I was at the police station, there was another call. I picked up, but nobody spoke. When I tried to call back, the phone was switched off. I know I should throw the phone away, but I'm afraid they'll call again. Sure enough, not long after he left the station, the National Special Operations Unit showed up. The leader, astonishingly, was the director himself, codenamed Kang Gukseol. As soon as he entered, Kang Gukseol slapped the police chief and told him to get ready to pack his bags. Then his men reported. The identity of Code 66 was found right here, and they'd already pinpointed his location. The whole team rushed to the taekwondo studio. Meanwhile, Manager Kim was still hesitating, unsure whether to drag his old friend into this mess. But Seong Hansu spoke up first. Remember when you saved Tidong all those years ago? That kid almost didn't make it. I know what it's like to almost lose a child. Think of this as me returning the favor. The two quickly agreed, deciding to let the kids go home first. Just as they were leading manager Kim toward the stairwell, they saw Kang Gukseol catching up, playing around with a little boy. Seong Hansu didn't hesitate. He kicked Kang Gukseol down the stairs, caught all the scattered rice cakes in midair, put them back in the box, and handed it to the boy. He gently patted the boy's head, telling him to head home early. "We're closing up early today." Kang Gukseol, having been sent flying, suddenly launched a sneak attack, but manager Kim blocked it effortlessly, fixing him with a cold stare. "There are still kids here." Kang Gukseol just grinned, completely unfazed, locking eyes with manager Kim. "Code 66, I've been looking for you." Manager Kim ignored him, flinging him aside without a word. Then Seong Hansu used his broad face as a springboard, delivering 10 kicks in a second that sent the rest of Kang Gukseol's men flying. When the dust settled, the two hustled manager Kim out, heading to the basement where they fired up his old red base vehicle, his ride for comebacks. He hadn't used it in years, but manager Kim still operated the equipment with ease, hacking into mobile towers and quickly narrowing down the location of his daughter's phone, though it was far away. When they arrived at the destination, both of them stopped in their tracks. Could this really be the place? It was a high school, and the entrance was crowded with delinquents. As they walked up, a young gang leader tried to block their path, but they didn't even slow down, ignoring him and heading straight in. The ringleader reached out to grab manager Kim's shoulder, cursing under his breath. Manager Kim didn't hesitate. A swift over-the-shoulder throw sent the guy sprawling. With the thug pinned underfoot, manager Kim asked, expressionless, where Minji was. The other delinquents rushed over to help their boss, but manager Kim sent them flying with a single punch each. None of them had ever seen anyone toss people around like that. The whole crowd was thrown into chaos. They'd hoped to overwhelm manager Kim with numbers, but he was knocking out 3 with every punch. In no time, manager Kim cleared a path through the gangsters and charged toward the administration office. He trusted Seong Hansu to handle the thugs outside. Inside the building, manager Kim moved like one-punch man, laying out anyone who blocked his way, leaving just one to guide him. But in the corridor to the office, another self-important tough guy tried to stop him. The guy lunged forward with a punch, but manager Kim brushed it aside with a casual wave. He spun the thug around twice with a single pull, then landed a punch square in his face. Manager Kim kicked open the office door, startling the thugs inside. They thought the police had come. But it was just a middle-aged man who walked in. 2 fat thugs sneered, "Who are you, old man?" "Some teacher here." Manager Kim glared at them darkly, saying nothing as he scanned the room. His eyes quickly locked on the only seated delinquent with pink hair who held a phone to his chest. It was his daughter's phone. Manager Kim knocked out the henchman in his way and strode to the pink-haired punk, pointing at the phone. "Where did you get that?" The punk didn't sense the danger. He held up the phone, showing off the lock screen photo, and provocatively licked it with his tongue. "Where do you think I got it?" "Oh right, it was from that girl last night. She was wild." That was the last straw for manager Kim. Never insult a man's daughter in front of him, otherwise you might not live to regret it. Still reeling from grief, manager Kim finally exploded. He grabbed the pink-haired punk by the hair, slapping him back and forth with relentless fury, then finished with an uppercut that sent him flying several meters. But even that didn't quench his rage. He picked up a pen, twirling it between his fingers, then raised his size 11 shoe and stomped hard on the punk's hand. Only the pink-haired punk knew the agony of that pain. He kept cursing, and manager Kim moved in for another blow, but Seong Hansu held him back. Any more and the punk wouldn't survive. Only then did manager Kim rein in his anger. "Have you ever actually seen my daughter?" Now thoroughly beaten, the punk finally told the truth. Turns out, the gang had just brought in a batch of new phones for him to inspect. The pink-haired punk immediately picked out Minji's. He casually turned it on, planning to snoop through it, and found that the call log only had one number, her dad's. When the others laughed at the owner for being a daddy's girl, the punk accidentally hit the screen and dialed the number, realizing only then and quickly hanging up. Manager Kim thought he'd misheard and asked him to repeat it. "There's only her father's number in the call log." Hearing this, manager Kim froze in place. His daughter didn't have a single friend. Then the punk added, "Well, maybe one. There's someone on a friend app, username Hyeryong." But even calling her a friend was a stretch. Manager Kim was stunned. He'd always thought Hyeryong was Minji's closest friend. With trembling hands, he pulled up the chat history. Reading the messages, he was shaken to the core. The other girl only ever asked Minji for birthday gifts or to borrow money. And the reason was always the same: we're friends, right? Friends should help each other. Naive Minji really believed she was being treated like a friend, never seeing she was just being taken for a fool. When he finished reading, manager Kim clenched his fists in anger, his heart filled with guilt. He'd known nothing, too busy trying to give his daughter the best of everything. He regretted not seeing it sooner. How much had she suffered at school? How much pain was she carrying? Just then Seong Hansu grabbed his hand. I know how you feel. But now's not the time for regret. You need to pull yourself together and find Minji, then apologize to her. As fathers, we know what it's like to bury all our pain inside. But we don't give up easily. Hearing this, Manager Kim gritted his teeth, picked up the still whimpering pink-haired punk and asked in a low voice, "Where exactly did you get this phone?" The punk confessed immediately he'd traded it with a homeless man. After getting the address, they quickly locked onto their target and tracked down the homeless man. Manager Kim took out Minji's phone and asked if he'd stolen it. The homeless man adamantly denied being a thief. Manager Kim didn't waste words. He grabbed the man's wrist, saying he was taking him to the police. The homeless man panicked and immediately confessed it was something he'd picked up. He said that last night, while resting by the roadside, he saw a thug get out of a car, sneakily toss a package into a trash can. Afterwards, he overheard someone in the car say they were heading to the crematorium to deal with the body. Thinking the bag was unwanted, he picked it up. When he looked inside, there was a phone and a wallet. He thought he'd struck it rich. The homeless man was about to say more, but when he saw Manager Kim turn away, he asked if he was listening. At that moment, veins bulged on Manager Kim's forehead as he struggled to contain his rage. He had realized the people in that car were the ones who took Minji's body away. He turned and asked, "What kind of car was it? Do you remember the plate number?" But the homeless man just couldn't recall. Manager Kim was out of patience. He grabbed the man by the collar, forcing him to remember. Frightened by Manager Kim's intensity, the man stammered that the driver had a buzz cut, drove a white BMW, and that's all he knew. Manager Kim wanted to press for more, but Seong Hansu said, "Enough, let's go. This is all we need." As they were about to leave, the homeless man called after them, grinning and hinting for a reward. "This info's important to you, isn't it? I deserve something." Seong Hansu, walking away, reached into his pocket, pulled out a coin, and bent it in his fist until it curved. "Is this reward enough?" The homeless man stared at the bent coin, shaking his head in terror. "No need, no need." Meanwhile, Minji, locked in the trunk, had long since been taken to the docks and thrown into a cold storage container. The arrogant gold-toothed thug still had no idea disaster was coming his way. He was plotting to use Hyori's murder as leverage to blackmail his high-ranking father for revenge. His gold teeth, after all, were only there because his father had his real ones pulled out years ago. At that moment, the dock security guard spotted them and came over to question them. The gold-toothed henchman killed the guard on the spot, then stuffed the body into the freezer as well. But they didn't expect Minji to wake up as soon as they'd left. Cut to Manager Kim and Seong Hansu in the car, using the base vehicle's equipment to hack into nearby surveillance. They quickly found last night's footage by matching the homeless man's face, and even identified the buzz-cut man who dumped the bag. Unfortunately, the car was rented, so all they had was vehicle info. They started tracing its movements. Because the car was still on the move, the tracking took some time. Just as the result was about to come through, a white sedan suddenly sped toward them, ramming right into their vehicle. Manager Kim was thrown around inside, but the tracking finished just in time. He memorized the address. The driver who hit them was just as stunned, taking a while to get out. It was Kang Gukxial from the Special Operations Bureau. The man was like an unshakable leech. Kang Gukxial pointed his gun at the base vehicle. "Code 66, I know you're not dead. Get out here." That finally pushed Manager Kim over the edge. Anyone who stood in his way of finding his daughter would die. Luckily, Seong Hansu held him back. This was a government official. Killing him would bring too much trouble. "I'll stall him. You sneak out the back." Kang Gukxial was losing patience. "Code 66, even if I shoot for real, it's fine. You get it. I've got approvals from above." Before he could finish, Seong Hansu stepped out of the car. Seeing only him, Kang Gukxial immediately demanded to know where Code 66 had gone. Seong Hansu ignored him, raising his hands in surrender. Kang Gukxial snapped, "Bastard! I asked you where Code 66 is." Just then, the car behind Seong Hansu exploded. Kang Gukxial froze, confused by the sudden blast, fire lighting up the sky behind him. Manager Kim seized the moment, using the smoke and chaos to leap off the bridge. The splash signaled Seong Hansu, who charged straight at Kang Gukxial. Kang Gukxial saw through the ruse, threatening to shoot if Seong Hansu got any closer, completely unfazed by hurting civilians. But what he didn't know was that Seong Hansu was no ordinary man. The moment Kang Gukxial pulled the trigger, Seong Hansu dodged in a flash, grabbing his gun hand, spinning with a side kick that sent Kang Gukxial flying meters away. Even Seong Hansu hadn't expected the man to actually shoot. Kang Gukxial sprang up from the ground and fired several shots at Seong Hansu, but with agile footwork, Seong Hansu dodged every bullet, even pulling off a 360-degree spin in midair to instantly reappear behind Kang Gukseol. He unleashed a crushing kick, but Kang Gukseol dodged at the last second. Another kick sent the gun flying. Disarmed, Kang Gukseol pulled a knife and went at Seong Hansu hand-to-hand, but he was no match. He could only take the beating. His subordinates finally arrived, and Kang Gukseol breathed a sigh of relief. But when he saw what Seong Hansu was doing, he was stunned. What on earth is he up to? That's right, Seong Hansu was preparing his finishing move. He charged at Kang Gukseol, who thought he was out of range. But Seong Hansu spun 4 times in the air. A 1,440-degree spiral kick landed square on Kang Gukseol's face, leaving the reinforcements dumbfounded. Then Seong Hansu dragged Kang Gukseol into the river. Meanwhile, Manager Kim finally found the white BMW that had transported 5 bodies. A trail of blood led straight to the refrigerated warehouse. Inside the cold storage, Minji, thrown in like cargo, was somehow still alive. She crawled out of the vacuum-sealed bag, only to find that the temperature had already dropped to -30 degrees. She pounded on the door with all her strength, screaming for help, but there was no response. Desperate, Minji curled up in a corner, the biting cold making her think of her father. Suddenly there were noises outside. The main door opened. Minji held her breath and quietly peeked toward the entrance, catching sight of a familiar profile. Tears welled in her eyes and she was just about to call out "Dad," when she realized it was a stranger talking on the phone. She heard him mention Ju Gangshin and something about "my own daughter's committed murder," which terrified her into silence. She could only huddle in the corner with her hand over her mouth. Goldtooth noticed footprints all over the floor and sensed something was off. Suddenly, a figure rushed out and tackled him. It was the security guard who hadn't quite died. When Goldtooth realized who it was, he drew his knife and stabbed the guard 4 times, making sure he was finished off for good. Minji watched as the phone clattered to the ground and the security guard collapsed, tears streaming down her cheeks as all hope seemed lost. Barely alive, the security guard noticed Minji, and with the last of his strength nudged his phone just out of sight, making sure Goldtooth, when picking it up, wouldn't spot her. Goldtooth picked up the phone, still grumbling about his useless henchman. "I just wanted a few photos, and now I have to deal with this mess. Better snap some proof quick, so I can use them to threaten President Ju. Otherwise, that guy will never give in." Just then, his phone rang. It was President Ju calling. Goldtooth walked to the door and answered. President Ju greeted him with a laugh. "Old friend, it's been a while. I heard my daughter's in trouble and you're helping out. Whatever you need, just name it." Goldtooth's smile froze, his face turning cold at the arrogance. "Listen up, bastard. You've got 1 hour to prepare 2 billion in cash. Come to the dock alone. No cops, no assistants, especially not that planning chief of yours. Got it? And you might want to bring a set of dentures, unless you want your daughter's reputation destroyed." He hung up before President Ju could reply. President Ju, seeing his daughter's anxious face, smiled reassuringly. "Don't be scared. Leave everything to Dad. We're not just any family. Remember, the ocean never gets wet in the rain." Then his face darkened and he ordered Director Nam to prepare 500 million in cash and to bring a pair of pliers. After his threats, Goldtooth felt great, stepping outside into the rain. But as he turned to go back in, he glanced through the crack in the door and spotted Minji. His cigarette nearly fell out of his mouth. Seizing the chance, Minji shoved a shovel against the door. Goldtooth was a step too late, forced to stand outside and shout desperately for help. "This is insane. 2 near-death experiences in 1 day." When he realized he couldn't force the door, he hurriedly called for reinforcements. Just then the buzzcut man's phone rang, and Manager Kim suddenly appeared at the door. He immediately recognized the buzzcut man who dumped his daughter's phone and wallet. Expressionless, he strode up to them and pulled out Minji's phone. "Where's the owner of this phone?" The fat man ignored the question, grabbing Manager Kim's head and demanding to know who he was. Manager Kim didn't bother with words, he simply pummeled the fat man into a pulp. Seeing how ferocious his opponent was, the buzzcut man tried to bolt. Manager Kim chased him relentlessly, the two ending up at the edge of a platform. The buzzcut man stopped and pleaded his case. "We were just the movers, not the killers. The real mastermind is Ju Gangshin of Jiayong Construction." At the mention of that name, Manager Kim's fury ignited. He was about to demand the whereabouts of his daughter's body when the buzzcut man suddenly leapt off, trying to pull a Jackie Chan-style escape with a steel cable. But he underestimated the pain of friction. His hand slipped and he plummeted to the ground, landing with a sickening thud. Meanwhile, Goldtooth was fuming when the buzzcut guy didn't pick up his calls, cursing both of them out loud. Just then, his phone rang unexpectedly. He thought it was the buzzcut guy, but it turned out to be another henchman calling, asking where they should meet up. Goldtooth told them to meet at the office and look for the buzzcut man, warning something might have gone wrong. He also told Kangman to come straight to the freezer. The crew arrived at the office, found it trashed, and quickly called in a report. Learning neither man was there, Gold Tooth ordered them to search the area. Meanwhile, the fat man, battered and bruised, crawled into a car, thinking he could finally catch a break. Suddenly, a fist smashed into the window. Manager Kim's fierce face pressed against the glass, ordering him out. The fat man, trying to act tough, sneered, "I'm not stupid. If you've got the guts, open the door and drag me out, asshole." He thought he'd outsmarted Manager Kim. But Manager Kim pulled out a wire, popped the lock in an instant, and yanked open the door. The fat man shrieked and immediately confessed, "She's in the freezer." Manager Kim froze. "What do you mean?" The fat man hurriedly added, "The phone's owner is in the freezer. President Ju said to dump her in the sea for the fish." Just as Manager Kim tried to ask where the freezer was, he was blindsided by a henchman with a steel pipe. When they saw the bent pipe, everyone was stunned. How was this guy still standing? Manager Kim turned and floored them all. Seeing things go south, the fat man escaped out the other side of the car, dragged out a truck driver, and tried to make his getaway. But Manager Kim, moving like he'd teleported, chased him down in an instant. With a size 11 kick, the fat man lost control and drove straight into the sea. Manager Kim dragged him ashore and continued the interrogation. Where exactly was the cold storage? At that moment, Gold Tooth was completely oblivious to the danger drawing near, squatting by the freezer door and coaxing Minji to let him in. Minji might be naive, but she wasn't stupid. She would rather freeze to death than open the door. Meanwhile, Manager Kim, dragging the fat man along, finally found the cold storage. He was about to see his daughter's corpse, unaware that she was actually still alive. The thought of saying a final goodbye broke Minji, and she sobbed uncontrollably. Gold Tooth stopped trying to persuade her and decided to wait her out. Just then he turned and saw the fat man staggering toward him. Seeing the bruised, swollen face, Gold Tooth was surprised and asked why he hadn't answered his phone. Tears and rainwater streaming down his face, the fat man was about to complain when Gold Tooth suddenly exploded, accusing him of collaborating with President Ju, and stabbed him in the leg without warning. "You think I'd fall for your tricks?" Then he noticed Manager Kim holding a grappling hook. "And who the hell are you, huh?" Another one of President Ju's men. Manager Kim ignored him, barely containing his rage. "Where's Minji?" Gold Tooth shot back, "Who's Minji?" Manager Kim, fed up with the evasions, moved to attack. But before he could strike, a figure suddenly crashed into him, sending him flying. Manager Kim barely had time to react before a high kick came his way. Facing this onslaught, he was forced on the defensive. But his opponent's blows were ruthless, and Manager Kim decided to stop holding back. Gold Tooth, thinking Kangman had the upper hand, cheered him on. That is, until he saw Kangman's fingers being broken, and Gold Tooth was left speechless with fear. Seeing that the newcomer was a friend of Gold Tooth's, Manager Kim took off his jacket, ready to fight for real. Meanwhile, President Ju's group was racing to the scene. Ju Gangshan knew that Gold Tooth wouldn't be so brazen without backup. Recently, there had been rumors of a city legend. Someone was taking in orphans and training them into emotionless killers. A few such monsters had already appeared in the underworld. With that in mind, President Ju ordered the planning director to clear the area first. And Kangman was one of those legendary monsters. He reattached his own broken finger, mistaking Manager Kim for President Ju. Gold Tooth hurriedly explained, "That's not President Ju, it's just a bad guy bullying your dad." The moment Manager Kim realized this was Gold Tooth's son, he rushed in and grappled with Kangman. But if anyone here was a real monster, it was Manager Kim, a true primordial beast. To break free, Manager Kim even dislocated his own arm, just to land a punch on Kangman's face. Then he popped the arm back into place. Suddenly, Kangman grabbed his two fingers, trying to lock Manager Kim in a deadly grip. There was a sickening crack, but Manager Kim, unfazed, wrapped his arms around Kangman's legs and squeezed tight. When Kangman kept struggling, Manager Kim warned, "If you keep this up, your leg's really going to break." Just then, Gold Tooth hurled himself over, kicking Manager Kim hard, and shouted at Kangman, "Didn't Daddy tell you, even if you're losing, you fight to the death and go for the enemy's throat?" Manager Kim responded by landing a flying kick on Gold Tooth. In that critical moment, Kangman dove in to shield Gold Tooth. "I'll kill him." He pulled out a knife, steeling himself for a fight to the death. Manager Kim rolled his freshly relocated shoulder, telling himself he had to end this quickly. "He looks about Minji's age, I'll let him live." The battle broke out instantly. Kangman stabbed at Manager Kim again and again, but every blow was dodged with ease. Manager Kim slipped behind him, trapping Kangman in a hold so he couldn't move. Inside the freezer, the girl was nearly frozen stiff, knowing that if the door opened, a cold blade would be waiting for her. All she could think of was her father. She remembered how he had knelt for her in humiliation and told her, "Minji, a parent's dignity is propped up by their child. You are my pride." That's right, she should remember whose daughter she was. She glanced at a rock-solid frozen fish nearby and decided to risk it all. Outside, locked in combat with Kangman, Manager Kim's face darkened. I don't know what you've been through, but no real father would sacrifice his own child, unless he's an animal. The truth was, Gold Tooth wasn't Kangman's biological father. He'd bought him from traffickers. The sellers had told Gold Tooth, if you say you're his dad, he'll obey anything, because all Kangman wanted was a family. So he did whatever Gold Tooth said, no questions asked. Kangman bit down hard on Manager Kim's thigh. Recalling overheard conversations between Gold Tooth and his henchmen, he realized he'd always been seen as nothing but a beast, never a person. Tears streamed from his eyes as he slowly unclenched his jaw. Seeing this, Manager Kim tossed him aside, glanced back with a sigh and limped toward the freezer. But Kangman scrambled to his feet and charged at Manager Kim like a madman. This time Manager Kim showed no mercy. One punch sent him flying. If my daughter were still alive, someone who tried to stop me from saving her would already be dead. Kangman screamed, kill me. If you don't, my dad will. Manager Kim seized his head, raising his fist, staring down at that innocent face. Is he really your father? What kind of father wants to kill his own son? Real family doesn't do that. I'm not killing you because you're about the same age as my daughter. With that, Manager Kim turned and left, leaving Kangman in a stupor. Kangman remembered how whenever danger arose, Gold Tooth always ran first, leaving him behind as a shield. For the first time, he understood what family really meant. But it was too late. He was taken down by the arriving director, Nam. Outside the freezer, Gold Tooth kept watch. Not seeing where the others had gone, he grew irritated, standing there in the rain. Suddenly, a loud crash sounded from inside the cold storage. Startled, he tried the handle. To his surprise, it turned. Cautiously, he poked his head in, seeing the body covered up. He couldn't help but smirk. Trying to play games with me. He drew his knife and approached the body, stabbing as he spoke. Uncle's not an idiot. But just as he sensed something was wrong and moved to peel back the vacuum bag, Minji suddenly raised the frozen fish and smashed it down on his head. Gold Tooth collapsed. Minji spat, you sure talk a lot. You really should remember whose daughter I am. Manager Kim finally reached the cold storage after countless hardships, only to find a single strand of his daughter's hair. He immediately grabbed the unconscious Gold Tooth, demanding to know Minji's whereabouts. When he saw Gold Tooth wasn't waking up, he slapped him hard but still got no response. Just as he was about to press further, his eyes caught the blood-stained frozen fish nearby. He quickly let go and stood up. Could there have been an internal fight? But looking at a corpse and a fainted man, something still felt off. He glanced around the room and suddenly spotted writing in the corner. Walking over, he recognized Minji's familiar handwriting. He couldn't help but tremble all over. Minji was alive, she'd made it through all this. So who was desperately trying to cover up the crime? His gaze snapped back to Gold Tooth, then recalled the buzz-cut man and that President Ju the young thug had mentioned. Rage flared up inside him. But right now, the most important thing was to find Minji. She had to be nearby. After Manager Kim left, Gold Tooth suddenly opened his eyes. He'd been faking all along. He grumbled under his breath, cursing Kangman for letting that lunatic in. He was preparing to leave when the door slowly swung shut. It was the fat man. The two locked eyes as the fat man closed the door with a heavy clack. Gold Tooth pounded on the door, begging to be let out, but the fat man ignored him completely. He planted his 300-pound frame firmly against the exit, blocking it. Gold Tooth's bravado finally faded and he pleaded, "Don't do this, stabbing you was just a misunderstanding." But the fat man wasn't buying it. He just replied coldly, "Freeze to death in there, why don't you?" Gold Tooth kicked the door in a fury, hurling curses and insults at the fat man's ancestors. Suddenly, the door opened. Gold Tooth immediately cheered. But when he saw a group of men in black outside, his face turned ashen. Leading them was the planning director, who simply said, "Open your mouth." When Gold Tooth froze, the director sent him flying with a single kick. His voice low and threatening, "I said, open your mouth." Meanwhile outside, Manager Kim was running and shouting Minji's name. Minji seemed to hear her father's call, her steps faltered. But when she looked back, she saw nothing but emptiness and smiled bitterly at her own imagination. There's no way Dad could be here. The rain poured so loud that Manager Kim's voice was drowned out. Facing a dead end, he leaped onto a shipping container and ran across it, desperate to find Minji. Suddenly, he thought he glimpsed a figure. He stopped and turned, and there at last was Minji. Manager Kim was so overwhelmed he could barely speak. But the rain was deafening, and Minji, having just climbed up to the roadside, didn't notice anyone calling her. She spotted a car approaching and waved desperately for help, hoping for a lifeline. But the driver, thinking she was a scammer, not only didn't stop, but splashed her with mud as he sped away, leaving Minji dazed and alone. A moment later, Manager Kim finally made it up to the road, but the street was empty. Minji had already caught a ride. But as soon as she got in, she regretted it. The car belonged to President Ju. President Ju, seeing Minji delivered right to his door, smirked. How interesting. Take her back, clean her up, and bring her to my room. And tell Director Nam to return after he's finished with those people. Meanwhile, Manager Kim knew he couldn't wait any longer. He dialed a number. On the other end was a man in military uniform. I just need to confirm one thing. My license to kill hasn't expired, right? It was the state-issued legal execution permit. As he ran, Manager Kim suddenly heard someone call his name. It was Seong Hansu, finally arriving on a motorcycle. Manager Kim, excited, told Seong Hansu that Minji was alive, but Seong Hansu cut him off. We have to go. They're almost here. Manager Kim asked who he meant. Of course, it was the unlucky Kang Gukxial. He'd stolen Kang Gukxial's wallet, traded it to an old man for the motorcycle, and even left a note behind. Kang Gukxial was furious and immediately led his men in hot pursuit. Meanwhile, President Ju had just finished his shower when a subordinate hurried in to report. Director Nam had already taken care of things at the cold storage and was on his way back. But Ju Gangchen showed no interest. He simply ordered his men to bring the girl to his office. He looked at the girl before him, his tone gentle. You fell asleep as soon as you got in the car. Been through a lot lately, haven't you? Minji replied that her memory was a bit hazy, that all she remembered was waking up in a freezer. Ju Gangchen saw through her act but didn't call her out. He continued, so do you remember anything about yesterday? Minji glanced at a photo on the table, hesitated, and said she couldn't recall. She thought she could bluff her way through, but the conversation circled back to Hyori. Ju Gangchen stood and walked to her side, his voice turning icy. Drop the act. My daughter tried to kill you. What do you think I should do? Minji broke out in a cold sweat. She asked in a trembling voice, when did you figure it out? Ju Gangchen leaned in and whispered, I knew from the moment you pretended to fall asleep in the car. You were Hyori's classmate, so I hesitated. But since you're playing amnesia, you clearly know plenty. He waved a hand, ordering his men to call in team leader Han to take care of her. She was Hyori's friend. Make it quick for her. As the burly man closed in, Minji begged desperately for her life. Team leader Han grabbed her roughly, don't move. If the needle slips, it'll hurt even more. In utter despair, Minji finally broke down and screamed for her father. At that very moment, the doorbell rang. The visitor was none other than Kang Gukxial. They had used satellite surveillance to deduce that Code 66 was looking for his daughter, and now planned to use her as bait. As his men kept ringing the bell, Kang Gukxial lost his patience. What are you doing, visiting neighbors? Just ram the car through the gate. The villa's guards immediately surrounded them, furious. This is private property. Get out of here. Kang Gukxial fired a shot into the air. We're with the government. Move. Relying on the authority of the state, he kicked down the door and led his team inside. Upstairs, Ju Gangchen had already spotted the commotion through the window and quickly ordered his men to take the girl to the basement. Kang Gukxial and his men stormed up to Ju Gangchen. You're Ju Gangchen of Jiayang Construction. Once he confirmed the identity, he flashed his badge. We're from the National Special Operations Bureau, searching for a fugitive. Your daughter is here. Kang Gukxial was about to light a cigarette, but Ju Gangchen snatched it away and tossed it aside. You say you're special ops. Are you a section chief or a director? Because you're deputy director and I. Before he could finish, Kang Gukxial sneered. You're awfully calm, aren't you? The Special Ops Bureau is raiding your house and you're not even nervous. Just then the search team reported, Sir, there's nobody here. Kang Gukxial didn't look surprised. Just wait. They're on their way. He smirked at Ju Gangchen. President Ju, you seem to know a lot about the Special Ops Bureau. Ever heard of the hexagram? They're on their way here. You know what that means, right? You're finished. Whatever you're hiding, we'll drag it out into the light. Kang Gukxial had no idea the hexagram team had just arrived at the gate, only to be blocked by Director Nam. The arrogant hexagram team demanded he step aside, and were promptly sent flying by a single punch from Nam. The remaining 5 rushed in, and within minutes were all laid out on the ground. Meanwhile, Kang Gukxial remained unfazed, even when he heard the door behind him. He thought it was the hexagram team arriving and waved them in. But when he saw the man being dragged in, Kang Gukxial's bravado evaporated. He could barely stammer a word. Ju Gangchen mocked him. That's the hexagram team you were waiting for. At the same time, Manager Kim and Seong Hansu found the villa and confirmed that Minji was inside. Seong Hansu asked how they should proceed. Manager Kim was silent for a moment, then grabbed a handful of dirt. He smeared it on his face. No matter what we do, it ends the same. Let's do this my way. Just as they were about to act, Seong Hansu sensed something and held him back. They saw a shadow sprinting toward the villa's back entrance. It was a member of Kang Gukxial's hexagram team. Kang Gukseol, fed up with Ju Gangshin's smugness, grabbed him by the collar to teach him a lesson, but was interrupted by a frantic subordinate. "Sir, the search warrant's been revoked. The deputy director's on the phone." Kang Gukseol snatched up the phone and was immediately chewed out, veins bulging in his forehead as he hung up in a rage. Ju Gangshin couldn't resist another jab. "Is that all?" Kang Gukseol lost it, kicking over the table and cursing non-stop. After venting, he leaned in close to Ju Gangshin and hissed, "Just wait. I'll deal with you myself sooner or later." The arrogant Kang Gukseol finally got back to his car and let out a long sigh of relief. All that bravado just now had been an act. He'd only done it to buy time for the hexagram team to extract the girl. Hearing the mission was a success, Kang Gukseol quickly told his men to back out slowly. It wasn't until he saw someone rushing toward Ju Gangshin that he floored the gas and sped away. Only then did Ju Gangshin realize he'd been played. At the same time, the planning director put the pieces together. No wonder that hexagram squad was so weak, dropping like flies. Kang Gukseol slipped away with a smirk, even bragging to himself about their legendary search skills. Naive Minji still thought they were the good guys and thanked them sincerely. But her would-be rescuer's face instantly changed. Like a starving wolf, he clamped his hands around her neck, only releasing when she passed out. Kang Gukseol praised his man's performance, saying he was getting the hang of being an officer. The others should learn from him. Forget fair fights. The only thing that matters is getting the job done, even if you have to use dirty tricks. None of them noticed Manager Kim had already slipped into a car, silently taking out the two in the backseat. When the white-haired man in front noticed, Manager Kim delivered a kick from behind, then quickly choked them both out with a seatbelt. Now the car began swerving like a drunk. The tailing vehicles immediately reported the situation to Kang Gukseol, but he was too far away to hear clearly. Now in control, Manager Kim sped after Kang Gukseol, speaking directly into the radio. Kang Gukseol paused, startled by the voice. Manager Kim wasted no words. "If anything happens to my daughter, you're dead." Kang Gukseol sneered. "So it's you, Code 66. Your era is over. You can't touch me. I'm already at HQ." He taunted Manager Kim mercilessly. "Hurry up, I'll be waiting with your daughter. Don't forget to bring a gift." Manager Kim replied in a low voice, "Sounds like you like gifts. Wait for your big present." Kang Gukseol thought he was crazy, and immediately ordered his men to seal the entrance, increase patrols, and take the girl to the underground interrogation room. His face twisted with anticipation. He wondered what that legend would bring as a gift. He never realized Seong Hansu and the others had already infiltrated the building. Minji was dragged into the interrogation room and slapped awake. Groggy, she struggled and demanded to know why she was handcuffed. Kang Gukseol told her directly, "Your father's a spy. A very famous one." Minji was shocked. "So Dad's that amazing?" Kang Gukseol kept up the scare tactics. "Your father's in big trouble this time. 19 years hiding, then suddenly going rogue. Why now? Do you know Jaeyong Construction? Seems to be connected. Do you know why?" Minji thought of Hyori and admitted they'd fought. Kang Gukseol was speechless for a moment, then flew into a rage. "So Code 66 did all this for some kid's squabble. Unforgivable." Minji tried to ask more about her father, but Kang Gukseol simply switched off her microphone. He turned to his men, voice icy. "Tell everyone outside, if you see Code 66, pretend to miss and shoot him. He's dangerous, I'll take responsibility." He was cut off by someone announcing, "The deputy minister wants to see you. He's furious about the search warrant." Kang Gukseol cursed the deputy under his breath and left the control room. As soon as he was gone, a shadow slipped in. Minji saw it and almost cried out. The security man sensed something, glanced around but saw nothing. He slammed the table in frustration, fixing Minji with a vicious glare. "Don't try anything. No one can help you here. Behave." Though he saw nothing, he still reported to his superiors that he was stepping out to check. He looked around outside, convinced Minji had seen something, but found nothing unusual. He turned back, and as soon as he opened the door, Seong Hansu, who'd been lying in wait above, leapt down and knocked him out with a scissor kick. Seong Hansu entered the interrogation room, smiling kindly at the stunned girl. "Sorry to keep you waiting. I'm here to take you to your dad." The two moved quickly, weaving through the halls and dodging patrols. But they were soon spotted. The guard hesitated for a split second, just enough for Seong Hansu to launch a flying kick, taking him out, then swiftly subdued the other two. The commotion drew even more patrols. For Minji's safety, Seong Hansu led her in a rapid retreat. Suddenly, 3 figures lunged from the side. To shield Minji, Seong Hansu took a cut to the face. The trio sneered, "This is the legendary hero. What a disappointment." They promptly reported their success to Kang Gukseol. Meanwhile, Kang Gukseol was being chewed out by the deputy minister. Hearing the news, he immediately led a team over. He swaggered in, greeting Seong Hansu with a mocking smile, as the deputy minister looked at Kang Gukseol with a wounded expression. Anyone watching would think you were the deputy minister, not me. Kang Gukseol couldn't be bothered with small talk and ordered his men to deal with Seong Hansu, telling them to leave the girl. Seong Hansu wasn't about to give up. He fended off attacks while guarding Minji. One of the bystanders suggested, maybe we should hurt the girl to get him to surrender. Kang Gukseol sneered. Do what you want. A hostage with one less finger is still a hostage. His men got the hint and soon had both of them subdued. Kang Gukseol went further, signaling his men, losing an eye isn't the end of the world either. Perhaps at the edge of death, time slows and you see things you never notice. Minji suddenly realized there were thin wires strung behind the man before her. At that moment, a wire snapped tight around the deputy minister's throat. Choking, he screamed for the men to stop. In a crisis, people instinctively look for family. Manager Kim's voice was low and cold. Nobody move, unless you want the deputy minister's head to roll. Seeing someone even more ruthless than himself, Kang Gukseol chambered around, signaling his men to shoot the intruder. Manager Kim didn't flinch, tightening the wire and demanding the deputy minister order everyone to drop their weapons. Feeling the noose closing, the deputy minister immediately ordered the surrender. Kang Gukseol quivered with rage. Everyone hesitated, then set their weapons on the floor. Kang Gukseol tried to resist, but the deputy minister yelled at him to comply. Frustrated, Kang Gukseol did as he was told but spat bitterly. Code 66, you really think this will let you waltz out of the Special Operations Bureau? Manager Kim had prepared for this. He'd already contacted another old friend before coming. Just as the standoff peaked, an explosion rocked the building. The shockwave sent Kang Gukseol flying. From the smoke strode a man in a custom t-shirt, grinning, Park Jincheol, the war hero. Seong Hansu seized the chaos, kicking back the attackers and dashing for the blown-open exit. Even now, Kang Gukseol's survival instincts were impressive. He was still alive. He ordered his men to grab their guns and pursue. Park Jincheol lobbed a grenade into the crowd, sending shrapnel flying. Kang Gukseol was shaking with rage. It's time to go, Manager Kim said, dragging the deputy minister toward the exit. He asked Park Jincheol if the car was ready. I've already confirmed the escape route. But Park Jincheol replied with innocent honesty, I didn't bring a car. You all look so rushed, I just ran over with weapons. The others were dumbstruck. Kang Gukseol couldn't stand to watch their escape, so he shot the deputy minister dead on the spot. He glared at Manager Kim, voice venomous. Code 66, there's one bullet left in my gun, and it's for you. He turned to his men, what are you waiting for? Get them. But before they could reach Manager Kim's group, they were taken out with ease. Kang Gukseol was left standing there, dumbfounded. Manager Kim thought, good, less trouble chasing us later. Better to finish it now. Minji looked at the three imposing figures shielding her, feeling a surge of courage and a sense of safety she'd never known before. Kang Gukseol's men were still jeering at the man who once ruled this place. Manager Kim appeared in an instant, materializing right in front of him. Jeet Kyun-do flowed from his hands like water, leaving everyone around utterly transfixed. Manager Kim showed no mercy, felling each opponent with a single punch, every move decisive and efficient. It was Minji's first time seeing her father so formidable her mouth hung open in astonishment. At that moment, Park Jincheol recognized Minji and greeted her with a smile. Without missing a beat, Park Jincheol chatted with her about school, all the while shooting down incoming knives as if it were nothing. The enemies rushing at him were dispatched with ease, like helpless chicks in his hands. Seong Hansu's kicks remained as fierce and relentless as ever. Watching his subordinates fall one after another, Kang Gukseol finally realized he might have messed with the wrong people. It wasn't until all his men lay on the ground that he understood regret had come far too late. Faced with the bespectacled middle-aged man before him, he found himself utterly devoid of the will to resist. All he could do was stare helplessly as Manager Kim took the car keys from his pocket. The crushing, overwhelming defeat shattered every trace of arrogance in the burly man. At that moment, Minji glanced back at Kang Gukseol and, to her surprise, felt a pang of pity for him. Manager Kim took Minji by the hand, leading everyone away from the scene. Just as Kang Gukseol stood there in a daze, the phone of the deputy director he had killed suddenly began to ring. Amazingly, it was a call from Ju Gangshan. As soon as he answered, Kang Gukseol quickly relayed the group's information to them. Even knowing how formidable the three were, Director Nam remained entirely unruffled. Manager Kim and his group sped out of the Special Operations Bureau in Kang Gukseol's car. When the pursuers continued firing in an attempt to stop them, he asked Park Jincheol for a weapon. This time, Manager Kim held back. He didn't aim for any vital spots. With Park Jincheol slamming the gas pedal to the floor, Manager Kim finally breathed a sigh of relief they had made a safe escape at last. After surviving the life-or-death ordeal, father and daughter exchanged a look, and Manager Kim hugged his daughter tightly, apologizing again and again. He deeply regretted putting her in danger and not rescuing her sooner. At this, Minji couldn't help but burst into tears. Suddenly, a truck barreled toward them, cutting short the moment of comfort between father and daughter. Park Jin-cheol fought desperately with the steering wheel, narrowly keeping the car on the road. Once the vehicle stabilized, Seong Han-soo looked outside and immediately sensed something was wrong. At some point, 4 trucks had surrounded them on all sides. The truck in front slowly opened its cargo hold, and the pursuing planning director stood inside. He issued commands through his earpiece. The truck behind pushed their car directly into the front truck's hold. At that, Park Jin-cheol whistled in excitement. Thinking of the head of the planning department putting on airs, he couldn't help but laugh until tears welled up in his eyes. These youngsters really know how to play. Let's see what tricks they have up their sleeves. Just as Manager Kim and the others' car was pushed into the compartment, Director Nam and his team had already put on their gas masks. Immediately after, a thick cloud of gas sprayed from the compartment's vents. Seong Han-soo realized at once that it was hypnotic gas. Manager Kim quickly comforted Minji, telling her not to panic, just treat it like a nap, and that her dad was right here. Director Nam glanced at his watch, estimating that they'd been unconscious long enough. He walked to the car, listening to the snores coming from the driver's seat, thinking everyone inside was sound asleep. After confirming Minji's identity, he prepared to take action. As it turned out, their plan was to frame Manager Kim and the others for drunk driving and drug use. Once the drugs had been injected, the cleanup crew would take over. But unexpectedly, the injection team didn't come out after entering the car, and when someone went to check, they found everyone inside had been knocked out. Before the man could react, he was sent flying by a kick. At that moment, the car started up and lunged forward. It then suddenly reversed at high speed, burst out of the compartment, and landed steadily. Seeing this, Director Nam hurriedly ordered the vehicles behind to surround them. Manager Kim glanced at his sleeping daughter in the back seat and swore he would never let her be threatened again. He rammed the truck beside him aside, charged straight at Director Nam, and raised his hand, gesturing for Director Nam to look behind him. Director Nam was stunned, sensing something was off. He spun around, only to discover that Park Jin-cheol and Seong Han-soo had somehow appeared right behind him. Park Jin-cheol shouted for him to stand still, but before he could finish, Director Nam sent him flying with a punch. Seong Han-soo froze for a second, and only dodged at the last moment as the fist came at him. Director Nam's attacks were fierce, but he didn't land a single blow. Instead, Seong Han-soo seized an opening and kicked at his head, but Director Nam caught his leg with ease, then swept out Seong Han-soo's other leg. Director Nam took advantage of the moment to lift him up and slam him hard onto the ground. Seizing the chance, Director Nam stealthily pulled out a finger blade and launched himself at Park Jin-cheol. Though Park Jin-cheol dodged desperately, he still couldn't avoid getting cut. Finally, he found an opportunity to knock the blade from Director Nam's hand. But in that instant, the other man landed a heavy kick on him. At this point, Seong Han-soo's whole body was numb. He saw Director Nam catch the finger blade midair, and knew things were bad. He'd lost too much blood. As expected, faced with Director Nam's relentless assault, Seong Han-soo was already at his limit, blood splattering everywhere. Director Nam prepared to finish things with a single blow. Seong Han-soo desperately raised his hands to block, and the two of them were locked in a stalemate at the edge of the carriage. Seong Han-soo glanced at Park Jin-cheol, who lay motionless on the ground, thinking to himself, since when did this guy become so easy to take down? But the moment he let his guard down, Director Nam seized the opportunity, nearly knocking him off the carriage. Director Nam pinned his hand underfoot, smirking as he said, "Got distracted just now. Were you looking at your friend? Too bad I hit him right in the philtrum. He's already dead. As for you, let's just call it a fatal accident." With that, he stomped viciously on Seong Han-soo's hand. Manager Kim, seeing his brother in danger, was about to rush over to help. But Seong Han-soo caught his intention, shouting for him not to come to take Minji and run. AKL, a multinational mercenary company. Any mercenary in the company who wants to retire must kill all the members of their own team with their own hands before they can walk away unscathed. Director Nam used to be a member of this company too, but just for a brief visit home in Korea, he cut down all his comrades in arms, people he'd lived and fought alongside for years. That alone showed just how formidable Director Nam was. Just as Director Nam was about to stomp Seong Han-soo off the edge, Park Jin-cheol suddenly appeared behind him. Director Nam sensed the danger and instantly swung a punch backward, only for Park Jin-cheol to catch it effortlessly. When he finally got a good look at Park Jin-cheol's face, he was stunned. Park Jin-cheol was still asleep. Not only was he snoring, he was even talking in his sleep, as if sleepwalking. That's right, when they released the hypnotic gas, Park Jin-cheol didn't even try to hold his breath. In fact, he took a deep breath on purpose. He'd planned to resist with sheer willpower but still nodded off. However, the tug-of-war between his sleep instincts and wakefulness sent his mind into a frenzy somewhere between the two, so now Park Jin-cheol was stuck in a kind of REM sleep. Director Nam was furious at the sight of Park Jin-cheol like this, and launched a flurry of punches in an instant, but Park Jin-cheol blocked every single one. He noticed that Park Jin-cheol only defended, never counterattacked, so he immediately drew his knife and stabbed at Park Jin-cheol's chest. To his surprise, Park Jin-cheol landed a punch right on his face, sending blood gushing from his nose and hurling him several meters backwards. The sleeping beast had finally awakened. Director Nam was still coughing up blood, shocked to his core by Park Jin-cheol's strength. And as he watched Park Jin-cheol approach, face dark as thunder, he struggled to his feet, telling himself it was just an illusion, and quickly assumed a fighting stance. Park Jin-cheol beckoned to him, "Come on kid, let's have a real fight." Director Nam charged forward in anger, throwing a flurry of punches, but Park Jin-cheol blocked them with ease. Seizing an opening, Park Jin-cheol landed a heavy punch to Director Nam's chest. Director Nam's eyes rolled back and he was sent flying. Park Jin-cheol didn't give him a moment to breathe. He leapt high into the air, bringing his knee down in a crushing blow. Director Nam dodged just in time, scrambling backward to put distance between himself and Park Jin-cheol. Only then did he finally realize that none of his close-range techniques within 10 meters worked on Park Jin-cheol at all. He froze for a split second, and in that instant Seong Hansu suddenly appeared behind him, landing a punch squarely on him. Immediately after, Park Jin-cheol followed up with another blow, sending him flying. Then he strode over, coldly demanding, "Have you decided how you want to die? Because I can't stand people who bully my brothers and family." Faced with this human tank, Director Nam's mind raced through countless ways to escape. He sprang to his feet and bolted for the car door, thinking that if he could live to fight another day, there was still hope. Just as he was about to jump from the car, he caught sight of Manager Kim chasing after them in the car behind, his gaze clearly warning, "Try to jump and you'll end up as roadkill." Luckily, Park Jin-cheol grabbed him just in time, but all that awaited him was endless torment. Park Jin-cheol slammed him hard against the car, then hauled him up again, repeatedly introducing him to the side of the vehicle until it left a mark. Suddenly, the vehicle came to a stop, as if it had reached its destination. Park Jin-cheol poked his head out for a look, only to see a group of men in black leisurely fishing. Manager Kim stepped out of the car at this moment, his face dark, instructing the two to keep a close watch on the dismissed man, then headed straight toward the fisherman. Seated there was none other than Ju Gangshin of Jiayong Construction. A subordinate quietly alerted Ju Gangshin that someone was approaching, but Ju Gangshin remained relaxed, casting his line as if expecting Director Nam. The moment he realized it wasn't, he shot to his feet, sensing something was wrong. Seeing this, his men volunteered to intercept Manager Kim, hoping to start with some tough guy banter, but Manager Kim didn't give them the chance. He simply sent the man flying with a single kick. The rest of the lackeys rushed in to help, but Manager Kim knocked them all out with a punch apiece. Watching all his men go down, Ju Gangshin was stunned. Manager Kim's expression was dark as he walked up to him. "Ju Gangshin, let's talk. I'm sure you have plenty to say to me. We're both fathers, don't you feel any shame?" But Ju Gangshin just played dumb, his eyes shining as he stared at Manager Kim. "At first, when Director Nam lost contact with me, I thought it was just a bad signal. But now it seems you took care of him, didn't you? I really didn't expect that. I heard you used to be in the Special Forces, was it Ks or 992? Manager Kim was a little at a loss for words at his retort. "Do you still not understand the situation you're in?" But Ju Gangshin replied instead, "You're the one who doesn't get it. Don't be so cocky just because you can fight. Do you even dare lay a hand on me? Go on, hit me." Manager Kim didn't want to fight. He just wanted to get this over with and live a peaceful life. Ju Gangshin could see his hesitation and looked at him with a smug, predatory smile, offering him $1,000,000 salary to join him, and saying in Korea, powerless parents could only be pushed around. Staring at Ju Gangshin's outstretched hand, Manager Kim hesitated. He remembered his wife's dying wish, the promise he made to take good care of Minji. But now, standing in front of the man who hurt his daughter, he found himself wavering. At that moment, it was as if Manager Kim finally made up his mind. He stepped up to Ju Gangshin. "How about a real man's fight? You set the rules, I'll even let you go first." Ju Gangshin instantly flared up. "You don't appreciate the chances I give you." He punched Manager Kim in the face, mocking him as he did. "Hit me, you bastard. If you dare lay a finger on me, get ready for a storm. I can make you and your daughter disappear from this world." Hearing that, Manager Kim didn't hesitate anymore. He landed a punch right on Ju Gangshin's face. His wife's words echoed in his mind. "You have to take care of Minji. Protect her. You asked what unit I was in, didn't you? I'm from the Beekson Headquarters Special Task Force, codename Code 66. At that moment, Hyrie had no idea her dad was getting beaten up. She could only wait anxiously at home. Manager Kim looked at Ju Gangshin, who was sprawled in the water like a dead dog, and worried he'd drown, grabbed him and hauled him up, flinging him heavily onto the shore, glowering fiercely at him. "Quit playing dead. Get up." As Ju Gangshin came to, a wave of humiliation washed over him. He couldn't help clenching his fists and swung a heavy punch at Manager Kim. "I've always been the one beating others up since I was a kid." But before he could finish, Manager Kim struck back, sending him flying with a single punch. Because Manager Kim knew whether he fought back or not, this man would never let him and his daughter go. So this time he went all in. Ju Gangshin's pride was trampled underfoot. He immediately pulled out his phone and shouted at Manager Kim, demanding if he knew how valuable this phone was. In Korea, it's not fists that matter, it's connections. Do you see these contacts? Not everyone can get these. If I call any one of them, you'll disappear without a trace. But Manager Kim was unmoved by Ju Gangshin's posturing. Instead, he took out his own teacher's phone, dialed a number, and directly asked if the person on the other end could dissolve Jiayang construction. The voice on the other end replied with confidence, saying that although they didn't know what had happened, it wouldn't be a problem. Ju Gangshin froze when he heard this, thinking Manager Kim was putting on a show with someone just to trick him. But the next second he saw someone was calling him. A vague sense of dread crept in, and he tried to hang up and avoid it. But Manager Kim told him to answer. "Haven't you always thought you were untouchable? Today I'll show you there's always someone above you." As soon as the call connected, Ju Gangshin's face turned ashen and he dropped to his knees, unable to believe that someone could so easily strip him of everything. Furious, he landed another punch on Manager Kim, refusing to accept reality. Of course, Manager Kim wouldn't let him off. He fought back while thanking him. "If it weren't for you, I never would have had the resolve to make that call. I'll do anything to protect Minji." At that moment, Minji woke up as well, and seeing her father like this for the first time, she couldn't hold back her tears. Seong Hansu asked her, "Do you hate your dad like this?" Minji remembered how, when she was little, she'd asked her father about his past, but he'd always brushed her off. She used to think he didn't love her. Now she finally understood that wasn't the case. Park Jincheol came over to tease Minji. "Are those tears of apology and thanks for your dad? Don't cry. Let me tell you a secret about your father." Minji was curious, but Seong Hansu stopped Park Jincheol. "You're not really going to tell her everything, are you? She's still a kid." But Park Jincheol didn't mind. "She's an adult now. It's fine if she knows." Minji was thoroughly confused. "You must be wondering how we all became friends with your dad, right? You'll be surprised when you hear the story. We used to be legends." And so began the tale of the three in their youth. In truth, Manager Kim was not Korean but North Korean. Because of a single intelligence mistake, his entire team was wiped out, and only he survived, captured, and taken to South Korea. That day, Manager Kim was still in middle school when an officer suddenly walked into his classroom. The officer, claiming to be recruiting for a social sports club, asked the athletic kids to raise their hands. At that time, everyone jumped at the chance, of course. But the officer then said there was only one spot, and they'd have to compete against each other until only one was left standing. That person was Park Yongkwang. Just as everyone was about to leave, the officer noticed a classmate clinging tightly to Park Yongkwang's pant leg. That person was Manager Kim in his youth. The officer took one look and thought he had the makings of a soldier, so he recruited him too. When asked his name, Manager Kim just stared straight at the officer, so the officer stormed over and stomped on his face. The whole thing was a setup, but by then it was too late to have regrets. They were taken to a deserted island and put through hellish training. The first lesson was to forget their own names. They only needed to remember their assigned numbers. Manager Kim's number was 73, Park Yongkwang was 66. Every day's lesson was getting beaten until they'd completely forgotten their names. After about a month, they really did forget. Then came harsher training. Hands tied, thrown into water to practice holding their breath, and hand-to-hand combat with cold weapons. Losers not only went hungry, they also got a brutal beating from the instructors. Days like these made Manager Kim feel hopeless. One day, Park Yongkwang handed a rice ball to the starving Manager Kim, but Manager Kim thought he was being pitied and told him to get lost. Park Yongkwang said that wasn't it at all. "We're classmates, aren't we?" It was that one sentence that brought a glimmer of light into Manager Kim's world. After 3 years of grueling training, they were finally sent on a real mission, a 3-day operation on the battlefield. Manager Kim was a nervous wreck, but Park Yongkwang was at ease, thinking that as long as they survived, they'd be free and could go home to start a family. Manager Kim said gloomily, "Start a family? I can't even remember my own name. Better not dream about it, we've got to fight tomorrow." At that moment, Park Yongkwang suddenly said, "Your surname is Kim." Hearing that familiar yet distant surname, Manager Kim froze. He was shocked that Park Yongkwang remembered. Park Yongkwang said, "The first day we got beaten, I forgot my own name, but for some reason I just remembered your surname. Weird, isn't it?" That night, Manager Kim couldn't sleep, his surname echoing in his mind as if he'd found a reason to keep living. The next night, they prepared to raid a stronghold but couldn't get in touch with their contact, so they had no choice but to force their way in. Inside, all they found was a signal jammer. By the time they realized it was a trap, it was too late. A flash of white light, a loud bang, their teammates all went down, and only Manager Kim, who'd come in late, survived by sheer luck. The dying Park Yongkwang asked Manager Kim where his leg had gone. Seeing his severed limb, Manager Kim couldn't hold back his tears. At that moment, an order came through the radio: abort the mission. If anyone is still alive, take your own life. The information must never be leaked. With the last of his strength, Park Yongkwang pulled Manager Kim close. Don't die. This is the first and last time I'll ever beg you. Don't trust that man no matter what happens. You must survive. With that, Park Yongkwang closed his eyes. In the end, it was Manager Kim who survived, only to be taken captive. Manager Kim was brought to a secret base for interrogation. His captors discovered he had no family, not even a name he could recall, but he had received over 3 years of elite North Korean training. The commander suddenly grew interested and wanted to see what Manager Kim was capable of, asking if he'd like to spar with one of South Korea's best. When Manager Kim turned to look, he saw a long-haired man leaning against the door, speaking in a mocking tone. Rock musicians don't fight lightly. Park Jincheol, you're a soldier. Try to look the part. Let him live. But Park Jincheol replied coldly, impossible. In combat, it's kill or be killed. If you want to survive, you'll have to give it everything you've got. Listening to their exchange, Manager Kim remained silent, Park Yongkwang's dying words echoing in his mind. No matter what happens, you must survive. And that sentence before the mission began, I hope you won't forget me. If even you forget, then no one will remember me at all. Manager Kim had promised him he would never forget. For these 3 years, we were together every day. You are Code 66 and I am Code 73. Manager Kim already had a way to keep his friend's memory alive. He declared then and there that Park Jincheol had no right to take his life, because his only friend had told him to live. Park Jincheol didn't argue. Give me your name. I don't kill nameless ghosts. Manager Kim readied himself. Code 66. The two fought fiercely, turning the commander's office into a ruin, but neither could defeat the other. The commander, hiding to the side, watched them finish and complained bitterly, couldn't you two have taken this outside? Park Jincheol stopped and said, let's leave it at that. I don't want to fight this guy anymore. The commander, still mystified, asked Park Jincheol what he thought of the newcomer's skills. Park Jincheol replied, I gave him several obvious openings, but he never took the bait. Even if we kept going, we'd never settle it. As for his skill, he's clearly formidable. The moment he walked in, he scanned every detail of the environment. Instinctively, he memorized every element that could be used in a fight. Isn't that right, Code? I don't know why, but since you've resolved to keep your promise, I'm sure you can see it through. That's what you call loyalty. Only after Park Jincheol finally left did the commander stand up. He recalled Park Jincheol's words, is he trying to let this kid live? Manager Kim, expressionless, said, I'm already a prisoner. If you're going to deal with me, do it quickly. Don't take me for a fool. The commander patted him on the shoulder. Korea doesn't kill people lightly. What you need to think about now is your future. Live quietly like an ordinary person. If you're willing, I can teach you how. The commander was actually a very kind man. He taught Manager Kim how to survive in Korea. Manager Kim lived a peaceful life in Korea for 2 years. Until one day, the general suddenly sent him on a secret mission to North Korea. He even said that this mission was Manager Kim's chance to be recognized as a true Korean, and that after it was done, he would even consider making him his godson. But unexpectedly, this mission made Manager Kim realize once, and for all that he was truly an outcast, accepted by neither side. They quickly arrived at the target's location. It turned out the bald man was just about to order an artillery strike on South Korea, with a subordinate handing him documents for the chief to sign. Just then, a gunshot rang out and the man was shot in the head. After grabbing the crucial documents, Manager Kim shouted for his teammates to retreat, but suddenly they aimed their guns at him. Sensing something was wrong, Manager Kim questioned them, only to hear a cold sorry, because someone didn't want him to make it back alive. Turns out, after Manager Kim's team set out, an officer had already reported to the general. The president was deeply concerned about anyone in the organization with North Korean ties, so the general ordered the team, make sure Code 66 never returns. Soon, North Korean troops drawn by the gunfire arrived at the scene, and what they saw left them stunned. Manager Kim stood there alone, radiating lethal intent. He had taken care of all the teammates who tried to kill him. As people began to surround him but hesitated to make a move, Manager Kim looked back at them. What are you standing around for? Aren't you going to arrest me? He was already weary of this world, ready to give up resistance, longing only to see Code 66 one last time. At that moment, someone did step forward and called out the number Manager Kim, once used in the North Korean Army Code 73. Manager Kim looked up, and it was the very officer who had tricked him into joining the army all those years ago. The officer told his men to let Manager Kim go and brought him to a room. Seeing Manager Kim staring at the food in front of him without saying a word, he asked if Kim had gotten used to South Korean food and no longer liked North Korean dishes. Manager Kim finally spoke up, questioning, "You took us away for no reason and now you want me to forget my own name. But why did you have to abandon them in the end? We are still human at the very least." The officer listened and could only give a bitter smile, saying, "How much brainwashing did you get in Korea? Yes, abandoning you all was cruel, but I was powerless at the time. Those above me forbade me from ordering your rescue, so I'm truly sorry for what happened to you. You know as well as I do that the military is all about following orders. Even now, as a lieutenant general, I still have to obey my superiors. I'll say it again, I'm sorry. Take these few days to rest. You're free to move around as long as you don't leave the town." Manager Kim walked through the town, feeling the rhythm of ordinary life, and found it all deeply ironic. His first real taste of freedom turned out to be here, in North Korea. And it was here that he met the most important woman of his life, Minji's mother. That encounter swept them quickly into love, and it wasn't long before they knew they belonged together. Yet happiness always seems to invite trouble. That day the lieutenant general came to Manager Kim, armed and ready, ordering him to take out someone's kidney, and angrily demanding why he was getting involved with a local girl. Manager Kim flatly refused, saying he only wanted a simple life. But the lieutenant general's words carried a warning. Word had already spread. "I've tried to keep it under wraps, but he seems to have caught your scent. Now he wants to kill that girl and you. There's nothing more I can do." With that, he turned to leave. Seeing this, Manager Kim quickly relented, but insisted the girl's safety be guaranteed. The lieutenant general, sensing Manager Kim had taken the bait, immediately handed him a photo of the target. The leader wants his eldest son to succeed him, which has angered a lot of people. So this mission falls to you, no one else. Meanwhile, in South Korea, Park Jin-cheol also received an assassination order. South Korea didn't want that man to become the successor. He wasn't just a warmonger, but an extremist pushing for nuclear development. For the sake of the country's peace, he had to be eliminated. Unexpectedly, Seong Han-soo received the very same mission. Not long after, Manager Kim arrived at a luxury hotel. The lieutenant general had let slip that the heir would be staying there for a while. Manager Kim arrived early, planning to settle in the room just below the targets. But to his surprise, that room was already occupied by none other than Park Jin-cheol, who had set up his own listening devices. Left with no choice, Manager Kim booked a room on the floor above. But as luck would have it, someone had checked in there an hour before. It was Seong Han-soo, also setting up his surveillance equipment. Sensing something was off, Manager Kim simply went ahead and booked the heir's own room. The staff reminded him that he'd need to vacate the room within a week. Manager Kim readily agreed. After all, everyone upstairs and downstairs would be checking out soon anyway. At that moment, Park Jin-cheol heard a familiar voice coming from upstairs, but couldn't quite recall who it belonged to. Manager Kim was seen lying on his bed, muttering provocations to those upstairs and downstairs, and finally complained of hunger, saying he was going to the bar restaurant next door to get something to eat. At the same time, both Park Jin-cheol and Seong Han-soo heard the news and decided to go check this person out. In the restaurant, Manager Kim sat alone as if waiting for someone. Before long, someone pulled out the chair across from him. It turned out to be Park Jin-cheol, dressed as a singer, who even ordered food from the waiter. Manager Kim recognized Park Jin-cheol and grew suspicious about why he was here. Park Jin-cheol shot back, "Code 66, I should be the one asking why you're here." Manager Kim, annoyed by his getup, said, "Cut the crap. Just tell the truth." At that moment, it was as if Park Jin-cheol's leg had eyes. He smiled and said, "After all this time, don't you think it's rude to greet me with a gun?" Sure enough, Manager Kim had already leveled a gun at him. Park Jin-cheol guessed, "You're here on a mission, aren't you?" He also warned Manager Kim, "You might want to put away all that stuff hanging on you." As he spoke, Park Jin-cheol revealed the grenades hanging all over his body. In the end, both of them had no choice but to put away their weapons. They exchanged probing words, testing each other. Suddenly, a commotion drew their attention. Seong Han-soo, dressed in a martial arts robe, stood in the middle of the lobby. People around whispered and gossiped, thinking he looked odd. Seong Han-soo also noticed those two out-of-place figures. It had to be the guys from downstairs at the hotel. And so, the three of them met for the first time. Manager Kim was the first to speak. What a surprise, running into two fellow Koreans here in China. Seong Han-soo poured himself a drink, ignoring the others, and said, "Your provocations downstairs at the hotel were way too obvious." Park Jin-cheol cut in, "The most important thing today is that we don't draw attention to ourselves." No sooner had he finished than both Manager Kim and Seong Han-soo turned to look at him in unison. With the way you're dressed, it's almost impossible not to get noticed. Park Jin-cheol was so aggrieved his eyes turned red. And you think wearing a white martial arts robe isn't strange? Seong Han-soo got straight to the point. I'm here to assassinate Fatty. It's a mission I have to complete. I hope you won't get in my way. After hearing this, Park Jin-cheol also made his position clear. Fatty is my target too. No matter who you take orders from, I am carrying out a mission under the direct command of the state. It doesn't matter whether you try to stop me or not, either way, you're no match for me. Then he began boasting about his own abilities, leaving manager Kim and Seong Han-soo at a loss for words. Seong Han-soo rolled his eyes and burst into a fit of manic laughter, then suddenly smashed the table with a single chop, drawing everyone's attention. He glared viciously at Park Jin-cheol. You long-haired soldier, you're quite the character. Park Jin-cheol shot back, seething with anger. Didn't I warn you already? Stop doing things that draw attention, kid. With just a few words, the two were at each other's throats again. Manager Kim's mind echoed with the lieutenant general's warning. If someone screws up and the mission fails, we're all finished. You, me, and that woman's. At that thought, he quickly tried to break them up. Are all Koreans this hot-headed? Do you think assassination is some kind of game? Don't you realize our target is someone about to become the head of state? Have you ever considered that your recklessness could ruin everything for someone who's fighting for their life? If you're so eager to see who gets the first shot, then come with me. The thoughts of these three men were always uncannily in sync. Just as they were about to head outside for a proper fight, they realized they were surrounded by a group of burly men wielding iron rods. The men glared at them menacingly. Who the hell are you, causing trouble on our turf? The three of them were momentarily stunned, but immediately sprang into action, and in no time had laid the entire group out flat. Just as they were about to settle their own scores, the sound of police sirens suddenly blared. Someone had called the cops. Police stormed into the lobby, stunned by the scene before them. Manager Kim hid out in the hotel for 3 days before finally emerging in the lobby. Today, after all, was the day Fatty was supposed to check in. Seong Han-soo showed up as well. Spotting Manager Kim, he went straight over and sat down beside him. So you were in hiding for 3 days too, and only now dared to show your face. Unlucky as it is, it seems we're always thinking the same thing. But Manager Kim still looked thoroughly annoyed. Don't wear such weird clothes. Stay away from me, you're way too conspicuous. Seong Han-soo retorted. It's much more suspicious to be sitting here reading a newspaper alone. Chatting with me looks natural. Makes us less likely to be suspected. As he spoke, someone even more eye-catching appeared. It was the unmistakable Park Jin-cheol, drawing stares as he surveyed the lobby. And so, this bizarre scene played out in the sofa area of the lobby. Manager Kim, stuck between them, could only look on in exasperation. Are you two ever going to get back to the mission? At this, Seong Han-soo spoke seriously. Honestly, just let me kill him. I have my reasons. I have to complete this task. You guys don't actually care who does it, do you? As long as the job gets done, that's all that matters. Hearing this, Manager Kim remembered the Lieutenant General's warning. You must take care of him yourself. Otherwise, I have no reason to protect that woman. Thinking of this, Manager Kim stood up and refused Seong Han-soo. Sorry, I have to do it myself. I have my reasons. Don't get in my way or I'll deal with you first. At that moment, a group of men in black suddenly entered from outside the door, interrupting whatever Seong Han-soo was about to say. Word spread that they were checking into room 1406, and everyone turned to look. The waiter apologized repeatedly, saying the current guest hadn't checked out yet. Suddenly, someone sensed they were being watched, but when they looked back, they saw nothing. It turned out Manager Kim and his team had already hidden behind the sofa. Learning the room had been taken, the leader of the men in black didn't cause trouble for the front desk, but he felt something was off and instructed his men to tighten security. Manager Kim and the other two heard this as well. Although they didn't speak, they all understood that acting alone had become almost impossible. Because their opponents were now alert and security had been reinforced, their original plan wouldn't work anymore. So the three had no choice but to cooperate for now. Once back in their room, everyone took on clear roles, and soon they pinpointed Fatty's location, agreeing to meet at the door at 2 a.m. the next morning. Seong Han-soo voiced his concern. The biggest problem now is security. We don't know how strong they really are. Park Jin-cheol remained confident as ever, the three of us together. Piece of cake. Manager Kim didn't say much, just emphasized the meeting time again, reminding them not to be late. Yet each of the three had their own thoughts, and all arrived at the location 3 hours early, clearly hoping to act alone. Seong Han-soo spoke first. It's only 11 o'clock. Park Jin-cheol immediately made an excuse. Drank too much water during the day, just came out to use the restroom. Manager Kim stared at them. You Koreans really aren't honest. The three stopped talking and headed straight for the hotel. When confronted by security, they simply took them out. But at that moment, Manager Kim noticed that Park Jin-cheol had taken advantage of the distraction and dashed straight for the door by himself. He rushed in and told the guards inside there was trouble outside. Seeing everyone run out, he slipped deeper into the building amid the chaos. Manager Kim and Seong Hansu turned pale with anger, but still managed to shoot the guards before anyone else. Right then, before Park Jin-cheol could even savor his success, he was knocked out with a single punch by a burly man. The man even taunted him, "So are you a man or a woman?" Seong Hansu also ran into trouble, forced to dodge repeatedly. To make matters worse, the opponent actually recognized him. "You're Seong Hansu, right? I've heard about you." Seong Hansu was a little surprised. "I'm famous even in North Korea." Meanwhile, Manager Kim quietly slipped into the ventilation duct. If the blueprints were correct, Fatty was in the room below. But just then, Manager Kim suddenly caught sight of a familiar figure. He even wondered if his eyes were deceiving him. How could she be here? The woman noticed him as well. Their eyes met for a brief moment. The woman smiled and called out to him, "Code 73. Manager Kim whispered, "What are you doing here?" The woman gestured for him to come down. "You must have a lot of questions right now, right?" "Code 73. The two security guards nearby heard the commotion. They started to approach, but were both shot dead with a single bullet each. Manager Kim climbed down from the ventilation shaft, tears welling in his eyes as he demanded, "What's going on? You owe me an explanation. I'm so confused right now." Just then, a voice rang out, "What kind of explanation are you looking for? This woman's just a puppet. Ever heard of the performance unit? She got close to you to use you. Of course we were being used too. To put it plainly, the people behind you staged a coup, using both you and her as pawns." Only then did Manager Kim understand. It turned out the Lieutenant General had been setting him up all along, infiltrating the entire town with highly trained actors. For over half a year, he'd been kept in the dark. Even tamed by the woman, he'd become a tool in their hands. Beak Daniel interrupted his thoughts. "That Yujin Lim woman, she's code 73, isn't she?" She answered obediently, "Yes." Beak Daniel drew his gun and took aim at her. "Now that it's confirmed, we don't need you anymore." The woman replied in a low voice, "Understood." She offered no resistance, like a soldier resigned to death. Seeing this, Manager Kim instinctively shielded her, pulling her out of the path of the bullet. In that moment, it seemed as if some of Yujin Lim's coldness melted away. Manager Kim couldn't say why, but seeing her in danger, he just couldn't help wanting to protect her. Perhaps it was because they were the same, both abandoned by the world. Beak Daniel looked surprised. "You can't save her. You might live, but she has to die." Manager Kim answered calmly, "And what if I kill all of you? Would that give us a chance?" Beak Daniel got the message. "Well, that depends on whether you've got what it takes." Elsewhere, Seong Hansu was still locked in combat with his opponent, and was gradually losing ground. Rai Mansiap recognized the man as a national champion. He'd even seen him on TV. He mocked Seong Hansu, saying all he had were flashy, useless moves. In a real fight, he couldn't hold his own at all. With solid fundamentals, it was easy to overwhelm him. Rai Mansiap took the opportunity to demonstrate what a real spinning kick looked like, following up with a barrage of kicks at his opponent. Seong Hansu could only defend, barely managing to block the ferocious attacks, with no chance to strike back. He failed to dodge one blow, and was sent flying against the wall by a powerful kick. Rai Mansiap was smug, so this was the strength of a national champion. Seong Hansu struggled to his feet, ignoring the taunts completely. The only reason Rai Mansiap kept mocking him was that his son had once watched Seong Hansu's matches on television, thought he was incredibly cool, and really liked him. His son had asked, "If you fought the guy on TV, who would win?" Rai Mansiap had smiled and said, "Of course your dad would." So now all he wanted was to defeat Seong Hansu, so he could go back and brag to his son. When the decisive moment came, both men leapt up at the same time, but Seong Hansu soared much higher, looking down at him from above. A high spinning kick isn't supposed to be used like that. Seong Hansu stepped on his opponent's body, used the momentum to spin 4 times in midair, and then landed a fierce kick that sent him crashing to the floor. "My fundamentals are much stronger than yours. Go home and tell your son you couldn't beat me." Meanwhile, at the entrance of the hotel, old Seong saw Park Jin-cheol holding up a burly man, one even bigger than himself. The big guy could hardly believe there'd come a day when someone would lift him up like that. Park Jin-cheol let out a roar, "Long live rock and roll," and slammed the guy straight to the ground. The burly man felt like his neck and back were about to break, but it was nothing he couldn't handle. He flipped up into a back handspring and landed on his feet, leaving Park Jin-cheol stunned. The vitality of this Hulk is something else. The big guy turned to Park Jin-cheol and said, "You let me experience something new today. Don't you think I should return the favor?" With that, he swung a heavy fist at Park Jin-cheol. He'd meant to say something sarcastic, but old Seong cut him off with a punch of his own. And so the two of them went at it, trading heavy blows, neither holding back. Meanwhile, Seong Hansu took advantage of the chaos to quietly slip upstairs. At that moment, Beak Daniel pointed his gun straight at Manager Kim. Did you really think the security bureau was just for show? Think letting you live means I won't pull the trigger? Don't overestimate yourself. As soon as he finished speaking, he fired a shot at Manager Kim's heart without hesitation. I was going to take you alive, but if you're so eager to die, I'll grant your wish. All the blame here, you gotta take it. Poor guy used up and then tossed aside. With that, Beak Daniel handed the gun to Eugen Lim. Your mission is over. Code 73 is dead. Now it's your turn to end your own life. It's time for you to prove your loyalty to us. Eugen Lim took the gun, aimed it at herself, and said resolutely, I obey the party's orders without question. But tears streamed down her face. There's something I want to say. I truly loved him, and I never once disobeyed orders. With that, she pulled the trigger but felt no pain at all. Beak Daniel began to applaud. You've passed the test. Your loyalty to the party is confirmed. You are just being used. Go on. And just as the two of them were leaving, they ran right into Seong Hansu, who had come upstairs looking for someone. At first, he thought Seong Hansu was just an ordinary civilian. But Seong Hansu spoke up, room 302 is a trap. Without hesitation, Beak Daniel drew his gun and fired. Judging by your accent, you're Korean, aren't you? Who sent you? Seong Hansu shot back, why are you the only one here? What about the person who went upstairs earlier? While returning fire, Beak Daniel replied, you mean Code 73. What's your connection to him? Hearing this, Seong Hansu fell into deep thought. Code 73, is it that guy? Could he already be dead? Unexpectedly, Manager Kim, who had just taken 3 bullets, appeared behind Beak Daniel without a scratch. It turned out that earlier, Park Jincheol had specially prepared bulletproof vests for them. At first, Manager Kim complained that the vest was too heavy and didn't want to wear it. But he couldn't withstand Park Jincheol's persistent nagging, so he reluctantly put it on. Thanks to that vest, otherwise he'd be dead by now. He grabbed Beak Daniel's gun-wielding hand, quickly emptied the magazine, and asked coldly, do you still think I can't survive? With that, he kicked Beak Daniel several meters away. There was a time when my only friend died right in front of me. I wandered aimlessly for a long time before I finally came to my senses. That's why now I don't want to lose anyone important to me again. She's my woman, and no matter what happens, I'll protect her. As Manager Kim finished speaking, Beak Daniel let out a laugh. You're so naive. Don't you know the performance troupe people don't have feelings? They've been trained since childhood, controlled for their entire lives. I don't understand love, but she will never fall for you. Besides, haven't you noticed I've been stalling for time? They're almost here. With that, taking advantage of Manager Kim's momentary distraction, Beak Daniel grabbed his collar and kicked him away. Foolish. You'd better give up and surrender now, it'll save you some pain. Meanwhile, Park Jincheol was getting pummeled by a burly man. Suddenly, the brute sent him flying with a punch, slamming him into the wall. Even as he crashed, Park Jincheol was mumbling, rock and roll, love and peace. The burly man stepped forward. I hold grudges. That surprise you gave me, now I'm giving it back. With that, he grabbed Park Jincheol's head and smashed it into the ground, adding, I can't stand long-haired men the most. Park Jincheol was knocked out, still muttering about rock and roll. In a daze, he actually dreamed of his idol band. The turn of events was just wild. In the dream, Park Jincheol called out to his idols in excitement, but his idol roared, the long hair that symbolizes rock is being insulted. The future of Korean rock rests on you. If you lose, rock history will go backwards. Right then, Park Jincheol miraculously got back up and tied his long hair into a ponytail. The progress of Korean rock starts with me. The burly man was completely baffled by his words and shouted angrily, what nonsense are you spouting? Want me to break your legs? Park Jincheol couldn't be bothered to explain, he simply punched him. With his hair tied up, Park Jincheol seemed like a different person and instantly overpowered Beak Daniel. At that moment, he suddenly realized maybe the author was about to write him out of the story. Facing Park Jincheol's iron fists, he couldn't defend himself at all and was knocked out cold. But Park Jincheol hadn't even had 3 seconds to feel happy when suddenly, the sound of hurried footsteps echoed from outside. He glanced back, only to see the lobby already packed with security guards. All at once, he sensed that something was wrong. Without hesitation, he dashed upstairs, shouting to Manager Kim and the others, what on earth did you do? Even Beak Daniel was left completely bewildered. It turned out another group of thugs had arrived downstairs and were facing off against security. And leading them was none other than the same guys Manager Kim's group had beaten up in the restaurant. As it happened, before Seong Hansu arrived, he had given them a call. He'd said, if you want revenge, come to this hotel. And bring plenty of men. In fact, I just wanted to keep a backup plan in case something went wrong. I didn't expect it would actually come in handy. Once the brawl breaks out, we can slip away amidst the chaos. All that's left is to take care of this guy. Can you do it? Code 73. Manager Kim was a little curious, how do you know that name? But Code 73 was in the past. Now call me Code 66. With manager Kim and Seong Hansu joining forces, Beak Daniel lost focus for a split second and took a heavy punch, which sent him crashing straight into the wall. Park Jin-cheol wanted to finish him off while he was down, but Beak Daniel dodged with a sudden move and seized the opportunity to grab Park Jin-cheol, hoisting him up and slamming him hard to the ground. Park Jin-cheol was knocked out cold on the spot, leaving manager Kim and his team stunned. They started to wonder if Park Jin-cheol was just here as comic relief. Apparently, this officer from the Bureau of Security was quite something after all. Beak Daniel looked at them with contempt. "You've really pissed me off. Now I'm going to get serious." With that, he lunged at the two of them. He and manager Kim were locked in a fierce fight, evenly matched at first, but as time passed, he began to lose ground. In desperation, he turned and yelled for Yoojin Lim, telling her to pick up the gun on the floor, load the magazine, and take them out when she got the chance. Yoojin Lim obeyed, bending down to pick up the gun. Seeing her armed, both manager Kim and his companion hesitated for a moment. Beak Daniel shouted for her to shoot as quickly as she could. Suddenly, a gunshot rang out. All three froze where they stood. Beak Daniel was completely baffled. He never imagined that this woman would actually fire at him. Earlier, manager Kim had been shot and had fallen to the ground, but Yoojin Lim realized he wasn't dead, just unconscious. She also noticed that manager Kim seemed to be counting something. After checking his pulse, she lied to Beak Daniel, telling him manager Kim was dead. Then, when Beak Daniel handed her the gun and told her to finish herself off, she finally understood that manager Kim had been counting the remaining bullets. So without hesitation, she fired at Beak Daniel. Beak Daniel clutched his bleeding neck, staring at her in disbelief. "Didn't I say? I've never disobeyed an order. You told me to fall in love with him, so I truly did. What woman wouldn't be moved by a man willing to give his life for her? A woman driven mad by love is truly terrifying." Then Yoojin Lim walked over to manager Kim and the others, and at that moment Park Jin-cheol also regained consciousness. But just then, the sound of police sirens blared from outside. Turns out the fight here had been so fierce, it attracted the police. Manager Kim said they needed to leave immediately, but Yoojin Lim shook her head and said, "You go. If you take me with you, we might not make it out. The days I spent with you were happy, but please forget about me and live well." Manager Kim asked in disbelief, "What are you saying?" Seong Hansu and Park Jin-cheol exchanged a look, as if they'd made up their minds. Then Seong Hansu grabbed manager Kim in a chokehold, ignoring his struggles and screams. "Do you know what will happen if you stay?" But Seong Hansu knocked him out cold. "We don't know what's between you, but we have to take him back. Let's each run for our lives now. Goodbye." Yoojin Lim was stunned for a moment, then she smiled and said, "Then I'm counting on you." Soon, Seong Hansu slung manager Kim over his back and rushed out of the hotel. "When you wake up, you can yell at me all you want, but I trust my judgment. If it were you, you'd have done the same. I'm sorry." At that moment, Park Jin-cheol caught up, carrying Yoojin Lim on his back. "Hey woman, why are you pretending to be unconscious?" Yoojin, eyes closed, replied, "Let's keep it romantic, don't talk to me." Seong Hansu saw this and asked, "Why'd you bring her out too?" Park Jin-cheol said, "One more doesn't matter, let's just take everyone." Seong Hansu didn't say more, only mentioning that he knew a place where anything could be cleaned, money or identity. And rumor had it the owner was Korean. As Seong Hansu led them down the road, Park Jin-cheol grew curious. Is this really the way to the pawn shop? Seong Hansu looked back, "I'm not sure either. But I really can't stand those two lovebirds behind us." Park Jin-cheol completely agreed. Just then a woman suddenly ran out crying, shouting, "You're too much, hateful Pyunjeon." Hearing that name, Seong Hansu finally knew he'd come to the right place. As soon as Pyunjeon saw these people's faces, he knew business had arrived. Seong Hansu led them straight to Pyunjeon. Manager Kim looked doubtful. Is this guy really that impressive? Staring at the man before him, Seong Hansu wasn't all that sure himself. He'd only come because of the rumors. Pyunjeon took in the group. "Oh, so you're the ones who stirred up trouble in Harbin. Word's gotten around. Didn't manage to assassinate North Korea's successor, did you? What made you think of coming to me? If I turn you in, I could make a fortune, you know." Seong Hansu replied, "If you were really going to call the cops, you wouldn't have let us in. I heard you're the laundry expert." Suddenly, Pyunjeon choked on that little tomato he'd just eaten. Park Jin-cheol sneered, "Old geezer's not as tough as he looks, huh?" He hadn't finished before one of Pyunjeon's men kicked him over. At the same time, manager Kim and another were ambushed as well. It wasn't long before Pyunjeon caught his breath, only to find all his men had been easily overpowered. "You've got some skills, I'll give you that." Seong Hansu didn't waste time. "We're in a hurry, old man. Just wash it for us." Pyunjeon seemed a bit annoyed. "And being in a hurry gives you license to be rude." With that, he leapt forward, landing steadily right in front of Seong Hansu, his movement clean and sharp. Seong Hansu found the whole scene a little suspicious. Pyunjeon spoke, "There are two kinds of people I hate most. Those who have no money but still want my help, and those who have no money and no manners. Park Jin-cheol was about to snap back when Pyunjeon ordered his men to keep pouring drinks. Come on boys, let's see how much you can handle. Sky Pawn Shop, a place where people from all over came to clean things up. No matter what the item, you could have it laundered here. But there was a special rule. If you could outdrink the owner, Pyunjeon, the job would be done for free. The steep fees made plenty eager to try, but in 50 years, no one had ever beaten him at the table. Manager Kim refused to believe it and jumped right in. No matter how Seong Hansu tried to stop him, he figured this was nothing compared to his past training. I've crawled out of piles of corpses, what's a little booze to me? But after 2 glasses, he was flat on the floor. Park Jin-cheol stepped up, glancing at Manager Kim in disgust. Figures, a guy who's barely spent any time on the streets wouldn't know how to drink. Let me. The two started chugging straight from the bottle. To everyone's surprise, Park Jin-cheol's tolerance was indeed astonishing. In no time at all, the two had taken down 3 cases of liquor. Cheers rang out all around, but only Seong Hansu understood in his heart Park Jin-cheol had reached his limit. Now he was relying on sheer willpower to keep going. In contrast, Pyunjeon's expression hadn't changed at all. The outcome is clear. It's time to let him stop. Park Jin-cheol could tell what old Seong was thinking and signaled him not to interfere. This is a contest between men. I'd rather drink myself under the table than admit defeat. Pyunjeon drank with increasing gusto. It's been a long time since I met such a bold young man. Bring out all the liquor you've got. Soon, the empty bottles formed a small mountain on the table. At this point, Park Jin-cheol slumped face down on the table, and the waiter came over to tell Pyunjeon they'd run out of alcohol. This guy's already down for the count. The result's been decided. Hearing this, Park Jin-cheol struggled to get back up, insisting he could keep drinking, but Seong Hansu promptly knocked him out with a swift chop. The match is over. Let's get back to business. This is a pawn shop, right? It's possible to use something as collateral to clear our names, isn't it? Even after all that alcohol, Pyunjeon remained perfectly clear-headed. Of course you can. But what are you planning to pawn, old Seong? Seong Hansu was a bit surprised. How did Pyunjeon know who he was? Aren't you the Taekwondo champion? I used to follow your matches back in the day. Someone as famous as you, how did you get caught up in all this? The truth was, Seong Hansu had taken on this task because he had no choice. That day, 2 men had shown up out of nowhere, trying to forcibly conscript him. For someone with his abilities, he was too valuable to the country. You can refuse, but the nation needs you. I advise you not to try running, you can't escape it. If you can take out North Korea's successor, Fatty, and bring back his head, I can use my influence to keep you out of the army. So the once rising star had no choice but to embark on this path of no return. At this moment, Pyunjeon, seeing that he was a fan of Seong Hansu, decided to help both him and the long-haired soldier. Manager Kim and his girlfriend, however, weren't so lucky. After hearing Seong Hansu out, he said if those two couldn't make it, then none of this meant anything. We came here to help them. If they're gone, this whole trip is pointless. Pyunjeon was about to explain his predicament, but Seong Hansu cut him off. Enough talk. Hey lady, turn around. With that, he dropped to his knees before Pyunjeon. Please help me this once. Can I pledge my knees as collateral? Caught off guard by this sudden act of kneeling, Pyunjeon was momentarily bewildered. Seong, what's really going on between you and this kid? Indeed, they hadn't known each other long, and there was no reason for him to go this far. But thinking of Manager Kim and Yujin reuniting, he just couldn't help wanting to give this tough guy with a tender heart a hand. Just this once, help me out. He's my friend, a friend with many stories. Pyunjeon fell silent for a moment, inwardly admiring Seong's loyalty. You really are something, willing to go this far for a friend. I'm starting to like you, you know. I'll help you this time, but don't ever use your knees as collateral again. Very soon, Pyunjeon had arranged a boat and a brand new life for them. At that moment, Park Jin-cheol watched the old man standing on the deck in the wind and asked, "Why aren't you coming inside? Aren't you cold?" The ending wasn't perfect, but didn't things work out in the end? Come in and rest for a bit. Seong Hansu listened in silence, saying nothing. You're just going to ignore me, huh? But that old man really is something else. Manager Kim just sat there, lost in thought, missing someone. It turned out that earlier, Pyunjeon had called someone, trying to get Manager Kim a new identity, but the person had refused his request after hearing him out. Do you realize if this guy stays alive, our whole plan is done for and North-South relations will be in chaos? But Pyunjeon didn't care at all, laughing as he replied, I know you've got someone handling Fatty, but you can't just look at the surface, you've got to see the bigger picture. North-South relations have never been good, like a married couple, always dredging up the past. Do you really want reunification? Old Choi wasn't convinced. That's not certain. What are you really trying to say? Pyunjeon sneered, you'll never reunify. Haven't you always wanted your northern group to be elite? If you know how to use people, you'll succeed. At that moment when Manager Kim heard they wanted to send him back to Korea, He was about to refuse, but Park Jin-cheol stopped him. Think about which choice benefits you more. This guy's daring enough to try and assassinate the successor of a nation. If you send him back to North Korea and he targets the South Korean president, could you stop him? I guarantee if he goes your way, it'll work out for you. Honestly, I could send him to the north, but out of respect for our friendship, I'm giving you first dibs. This is a one-time offer. If I'm involved, he won't die. The other side immediately agreed, but added a condition. Seeing he still dared to bargain, Pyungjong instantly lost his patience. I should be the one making demands. Wire me $2 million or I'll send him to the north. That's final. Send the money to the usual place. Manager Kim and the others were stunned, realizing that as long as profit was involved, Pyungjong would never lose out. Pyungjong hung up the phone and let out a long breath. You all heard right. I'll arrange for you to go to South Korea, get your records wiped and start over there. You'll be on the same boat as Seong and the long-haired one. As for that woman, I'll arrange her passage in a few days. Her case is special. Manager Kim, overwhelmed, wanted to argue with him, but Yujin grabbed his arm, urging him not to act impulsively. Pyungjong also reassured him not to worry. As soon as you get there, give me the address. I promise I'll bring her to you, do you understand? As Manager Kim was about to leave, Yujin handed him a pocket watch and said, I'll definitely come back to get this from you. You must take good care of it, all right? But he didn't know that after this parting, he would never see Yujin again. Because of this experience, the three of them became friends for life and death. Until one day, 10 years later, a soldier shouted in a panic, the senior is back. All the members of Beak Mountain lined up in 2 rows to welcome someone's return, snapping perfect salutes. Thank you for your hard work. Manager Kim, just back, headed straight to the chief's office to report his mission. Listening to Jang Haejun's praise, he felt no joy at all, only an overwhelming emptiness. During those 10 years, Manager Kim had tried countless ways, but never found any trace of her. Every time he inquired at the pawn shop, all he got was no information to give. After listening to Jang Haejun's string of formalities, Manager Kim prepared to leave. As agreed, the mission's done, you have to let me out. I need to go somewhere. The pocket watch was broken and he wanted to fix it. But the watchmaker said it couldn't be repaired, it wasn't made in this country, and there were no matching parts. How about changing everything but the photo? Just as Manager Kim was begging the craftsman to try his best, the watchmaker's wife came in with some water, saw the photo and the pocket watch and praised the girl's looks, saying she looked a lot like Yujin. That's the girl who does charity work, gentle and kind. I wish she could be my daughter-in-law. Hearing this, Manager Kim couldn't help but tremble. The next morning, he went straight to the charity kitchen where food was given out for free. He spotted a woman bustling about, and Manager Kim, holding a tray, walked up to her and asked, Is food served here every day? Yujin answered him while busy, without looking up. But Manager Kim kept pressing, You'll be here tomorrow. And the day after tomorrow. Only then did Yujin sense something odd. If I came every day, would you always be here? She finally looked up at the man in front of her and was stunned. Manager Kim, tears streaming down his face, said, I finally found you. Back at his place, Manager Kim couldn't hold back the longing he'd kept bottled up for more than a decade. She was a little shy, struggling to push him away. It's been so long, can we turn off the light? And then, the two were finally reunited after all these years apart. Not long after, Manager Kim stared blankly at a potted plant on the table. Yujin came out from her shower and told him it was honeysuckle, and that its flower language meant devoted love. Upon hearing this, Manager Kim finally voiced the question he'd kept for over a decade. How have you been all these years? Why didn't you ever come to find me? But Yujin apologized first. It turned out that back then, after Pyungjong had sent them away, she took the initiative to ask Pyungjong to take her somewhere else. If she kept following Manager Kim, she would only drag him down. She didn't want to be a burden to the one she loved. Please, Senior Cho. That's why I made this selfish decision. I'm sorry. At those words, Manager Kim pulled her tightly into his arms. I'm the one who should apologize. I didn't find you sooner, I made you wait so long. He couldn't stop blaming himself. Instead, Yujin felt a sense of peace, as if all the waiting had been worth it. But now, it seemed she would have to take another shower. Yet early the next morning, as soon as Manager Kim returned to the Beekson base, he was handcuffed. They had already found out what Manager Kim did the night before. Didn't we warn you not to get involved with civilians? To protect Yujin, Manager Kim could only lie and claim it was just a one-night stand. I'm a man too, I need to let off steam sometimes. But they didn't believe him, thinking he was covering for that woman. Just then, someone reported, the team leader already sent people to the woman's place, but it looks like she ran. There's no trace of her identity anywhere. Manager Kim froze when he heard this. Seeing his reaction seemed genuine, they reluctantly let it go. Remember, we're always watching you. You let your guard down this time, but don't let it happen again. Because of this meeting, Manager Kim was punished, sent off to a remote island in the West Sea awaiting his fate. His tightly controlled life took an unexpected turn when he got a call out of the blue from Pyunjeon, whom he hadn't spoken to in over a decade. Pyunjeon told him Yujin was pregnant and in the delivery room now. Luckily I'm in Korea, or else she would have gone into surgery alone. Hurry and get here. Just as he was about to give the address, a nurse burst out of the delivery room. Guardian, please sign here. The mother is hemorrhaging. Her life is in danger. Manager Kim heard it all through the phone. When he rushed to the hospital, all he saw was a baby wrapped in swaddling clothes. The woman he loved most was already gone. A nurse approached and relayed Yujin's final words to Manager Kim. Let's call the baby Minji. I know it's a little embarrassing, but I really wanted to call you my husband. Maybe our meeting was driven by circumstance, but I truly loved you. I hope you can put the past behind you, live well as Minji's father, and protect her for a lifetime. For this child, you must give it your all. So Manager Kim went straight back to Baeksan base, holding Jang Haejun at gunpoint. He threatened everyone, demanding to be discharged. Surrounded and talked down by his colleagues, he didn't budge. His mind was only on going home to care for his daughter. Jang Haejun tried to reason with him, saying, "Didn't you say she was just a one-night stand? You're not even sure the child is yours." Manager Kim fired a shot right after hearing this, scaring Jang Haejun so much he wet his pants. "Discharge him, hurry up and discharge him. He's gone mad, just agree to whatever he wants." At that moment, a soldier rushed in to report, "The president is missing and no one around him can be reached." The media was following the story too. The situation was urgent and a decision had to be made immediately. When it rains, it pours, just as something this huge happened. There was no choice. They had to agree to Manager Kim's discharge, but hoped he would help with one more thing. Manager Kim didn't ask what it was, simply nodded. The other party said, "Something happened to the president on his way to the summit, and now no one knows where he is. We have to rescue the president within 12 hours, or the two countries might go to war. Can you do it?" Manager Kim was silent for a moment, then agreed, "So I just have to find him within 12 hours. The officer quickly confirmed, but Manager Kim replied, "Give me 3 hours, that's enough. But don't forget to let me retire, or I might do anything." Meanwhile, the North Korean leader was flying into a rage, having just learned that his own nephew Kim Jong-seon had kidnapped the South Korean president, and on the way to the Inter-Korean summit, no less. They had no choice but to explain it to the outside world under the guise of radical militants. But internally, they still had to find Kim Jong-seon as soon as possible and negotiate with South Korea. As for Kim Jong-seon, his subordinates thought he'd gone too far, but he didn't care, believing that Fatty was no longer the war maniac he once was. With all these summits, people were getting brainwashed, still talking about humanitarian aid and protecting the Korean peninsula with peace. What a load of crap. Kim Jong-seon thought that once this was over, Fatty would understand his well-intentioned motives. They planned to use this incident to extract more benefits from South Korea. Meanwhile, Fatty's side was still discussing countermeasures. Kim Jong-seon, that idiot. What do we do now? Lee Young-ryung suggested, "The Americans might take this opportunity to cause trouble for you. Please stay in the Manhwa 1 special suite for now. It's the safest place. No one can find you there." But what they didn't know was that someone was already looking for them. A short while earlier, Manager Kim had asked about Fatty's exact location, planning to take him hostage in order to exchange him for the group who'd kidnapped the president. Because he knew very well if someone could kidnap the president during the summit, it could only be the North Koreans. After hearing Manager Kim's plan, the officer broke out in a cold sweat and hurriedly reminded him, "Whatever you're about to do has nothing to do with our government. It's purely the personal action of a former North Korean Special Forces operative like yourself." Soon, Manager Kim arrived at a secret base in North Korea. Seeing someone approach, the guards at the gate immediately stepped up to question him. Manager Kim was ready. He took out forged credentials, saying he had urgent business to report to the president. With that, he pushed open the door and walked in, completely ignoring the stunned look on the guard's face. The soldier was about to stop him, but his comrade pulled him back. "Are you crazy? Didn't you see his badge says Division 51? That's the armed unit formed after the Dan Line disbanded 10 years ago. Members here have enormous authority. If they even suspect you, they can execute you on the spot." Manager Kim had banked on this very fact when he decided to forge an ID. What's more, before coming, Manager Kim had called Pyunjeon, asking him to tip off the insiders, so Fatty's trusted men would know there was a mole hiding in Beacon 1. Pyunjeon agreed readily, because he still felt guilty about Yujin's death and wanted to help Manager Kim. Once the trusted men got the word, they immediately told Lee Young-ryung, adding fuel to the fire by saying the Americans might attack at any moment, urging him to evacuate the president without delay. At first, Lee Young-ryung was skeptical, but upon hearing the news came from Pyunjeon, he broke out in a cold sweat and prepared to personally escort Fatty to Passage 6. But what he didn't know was that Manager Kim had already set a trap there, waiting for them to fall in. Just then, a patrol soldier spotted Manager Kim. Manager Kim flashed his Division 51 credentials, but the soldier still found him suspicious and insisted on reporting and verifying his identity. Opening his backpack, the soldier found something off, and before he could react, Manager Kim struck first. A punch sent one flying, then a kick took down the second, but the last soldier managed to level a gun at him. Meanwhile, Fatty's group arrived at Passage 6 as well. This time, he chose to trust Pyungjon's intel. But as soon as they entered, chaos erupted ahead. Their own men were fighting each other, and the floor was strewn with debris. He immediately ordered them to ignore everything and push through at full speed. Just as they were about to crash through, Manager Kim suddenly leapt out from the side and hooked a rope onto the vehicle. It could only slow them down for a moment, but the snapped rope caught in the tire, causing the car to swerve out of control and smash into the side. Lee Youngryong was left dazed and reeling from the crash, and then Manager Kim drew his pistol, shattering the car window, smashed the glass with one punch, and aimed his gun inside, ordering everyone out. Elsewhere, Kim Jeongseon's face twisted as if he'd swallowed a fly, because his men reported that Fatty had been kidnapped. Realizing the plan was falling apart, Kim Jeongseon broke down and fell to his knees, sobbing uncontrollably. At the same time, the news reached South Korea. Jang Hyojun and his companions were stunned. Just then, their subordinate reported that chaos had broken out on the North Korean side. What's more, the man in question had taken hostages and was fleeing toward the Imjin River. With their president sitting in the hijacked car, the North Koreans dared not make a move. No one dared fire, fearing for the president's safety. They could only tail behind, giving in to every demand. Fatty had lived half his life, but never dreamed he would one day be kidnapped. "You know so much about us, it's clear you're no ordinary character, are you?" But Manager Kim paid him no attention and focused on driving. Fatty was so furious, he started cursing loudly. At this moment, South Korea also decided to assist Manager Kim and cover for his actions. After all, things had escalated, there was no way to turn back. Suddenly, someone burst into the command room and unleashed a torrent of anger at Jang Hyojun. "You agreed to this insane plan." As he spoke, he slapped Jang Hyojun across the face. "What are you doing right now? Who gave you the authority? If this starts a war, can you take responsibility?" Jang Hyojun's reply caught him off guard. "The president has already been kidnapped, there's nothing we can do. As commander, I don't think I'm in the wrong. They crossed the line first. If we don't fight back, they'll take us for pushovers." Seeing that Jang Hyojun dared to talk back, Guilty was about to hit him again when a soldier suddenly reported, "The people who kidnapped the president just called." Guilty rushed to answer, but to his surprise, Kim Jeongseon immediately started yelling on the other end. "Are you all crazy? How dare you kidnap our great leader? Release him at once or we'll blow you up." When there was no reaction, Kim Jeongseon quickly threatened, "If you don't let him go, I'll put a hole in your president's head." Guilty tried to calm him down, but Jang Hyojun grabbed the phone out of his hand. He completely ignored the stunned Guilty and shot back angrily. "What kind of kidnappers are you? Don't think you can threaten us with the president. We're not afraid to go down together. If you so much as touch a hair on his head, we'll tear Fatty to pieces. You have 1 hour, release him immediately. Don't forget the people who kidnapped him are maniacs too. The longer this drags on, the less control we have." Meanwhile, on the Imjin River Bridge, North and South Korean forces had already faced off, each side bringing their men and setting up defenses at the border. Manager Kim soon sped onto the scene, and the North Korean guards, afraid to fire, quickly lowered the barriers and spike strips. Manager Kim ignored them completely and barreled right through. As his tires deflated, the car spun out of control and crashed through the iron railings on the bridge, nearly plunging off the edge. The North Koreans were scared out of their wits. On the South Korean side, they rushed forward to provide backup. But to their surprise, Manager Kim immediately shouted for them to stop. "Don't come any closer. There's a bomb in my car. I won't release your president until he's safely in South Korea." Fatty, still calm, tried to reason with Manager Kim. "You should know what North Korea is capable of. We've already found out exactly who you are. Our soldiers will track down your family. Why are you doing this? Is it for money? If it's money, just name your price, I can give you anything. I really admire your courage and spirit." But Manager Kim replied darkly, "If it was about money, I'd never have gotten involved. This is about my family." At that moment, the North Koreans had already found out which hospital Manager Kim's daughter was in. They pretended to be the child's relatives, trying to take her away, but unexpectedly the hospital refused. The result was predictable. They didn't want to waste any more time. Just then, a man walked in. It was Seong Hansu. Manager Kim had deliberately contacted his old friend, asking for help to take his daughter away. He knew very well that even if the mission succeeded, the other side would never let him walk away unscathed. Determined to survive so he could care for his daughter, Manager Kim had resolved to fight to the end. He believed Seong Hansu would be able to get Minji out safely. As the others were rifling through the birth records and saw someone enter, they initially intended to politely ask Seong Hansu to leave, but instead, he knocked them flying with a single punch. "Sorry, I'm just here to pick up a child. I'll be out in a moment." At that moment, Kim Jeongseon looked grim, cursing non-stop under his breath. Because the people from the north were urging him to hurry up, the car on the bridge wouldn't last much longer, so he had no choice but to drive against traffic all the way there. Even the usually unflappable Fatty was more than a little annoyed this time, hearing that Manager Kim caused such a commotion just for his family. "When this is over, you'd better be ready for the consequences." Manager Kim ignored the threat. From the moment he stepped into this insane operation, he'd already prepared himself for the worst. Seong Hansu did not betray that trust, arriving at the hospital in time to find Minji. Looking down at the little one in his arms, Seong Hansu sighed. "She really looks like her mother. Looks like I need to have a daughter too." No sooner had Seong Hansu left than another figure appeared at the hospital. The man on the floor struggled to lift his head. "The child's been taken. You're too late." The newcomer immediately seized him by the throat. "Tell me what they looked like and which way they went." Meanwhile, Kim Jeongseon had also led his team into South Korea, sniffling as he shouted, "This was all my own idea. It has nothing to do with anyone else. Let Fatty go, his heart's not good." Just then, Manager Kim received the order to release their hostage, but ignored it. Instead, he turned to Fatty and asked, "Can you swim?" Before he finished speaking, he floored the accelerator, and the car plunged straight into the river. Both sides from North and South Korea stared, dumbfounded, frozen in place. Guilty was so furious he ripped off his headset. "That's it. It's all over. They've let their people go. If we don't do the same, we're in big trouble." At that moment, a nearby soldier suddenly interrupted. "There's a helicopter overhead, military hours." That's right, at the critical moment, how could Park Jin-cheol be absent? He leapt straight out of the helicopter. 5 years ago, he had no interest in climbing the ranks. Until he met that woman, he'd even picked out names for their future children. He greeted her with all his heart, only to be brushed off for his low rank, and told she hated his long hair. Park Jin-cheol was utterly crushed by the blow, so he made up his mind to ask his superiors to transfer him to the fastest rising position. "I'm going to surpass that woman." With that resolve, Park Jin-cheol was dispatched to Somalia on assignment. Unexpectedly, he managed to unify the entire northern region of Somalia single-handedly. After plunging into the water, he searched everywhere for Manager Kim, and soon spotted Manager Kim swimming toward the shore with Fatty in tow. Meanwhile, the North Korean soldiers on the bridge, seeing someone from the South Korean helicopter jump into the water, immediately opened fire on Park Jin-cheol. The South Koreans, not to be outdone, instantly gave orders to return fire. Manager Kim, focused solely on escaping, had no idea Park Jin-cheol was right behind him. Watching Manager Kim's silhouette swim farther and farther away, Park Jin-cheol had no choice but to keep accelerating. He knew that missing this opportunity would have dire consequences. Suddenly, a bullet struck his thigh and his speed was dragged down at once. Gazing at Manager Kim in the distance, he silently prayed, "O Sea of Somalia, grant me strength." Unfortunately, he only felt himself slowing down more and more. At the same time, South Korea's top brass had already decided to abandon Manager Kim, simply because his existence had become a diplomatic headache. Soon after, someone ordered all records of his identity to be erased. Once Manager Kim reached the shore, he set Fatty down and left him aside, knowing full well that the pursuers would arrive soon. At last, they found the president, thankfully unharmed. But the other side wasn't about to give up, and continued to order Manager Kim's pursuit and assassination. They planted explosives in every secret tunnel, and upon command detonated them all at once, obliterating every escape route. Their determination to capture Manager Kim was crystal clear. Manager Kim glanced back at the explosions. "Damn, the retreat was cut off even faster than I expected. Looks like the pursuers are not to be underestimated." A gunshot rang out and Manager Kim was hit in the shoulder. The enemy tried to fire again, but Manager Kim had already vanished from sight. The pursuers split up to search, but when they turned around, they found a teammate already down and froze in shock on the spot. Manager Kim seized the moment to try to finish him off, but another shot rang out, striking him in the arm. It turned out the main force from Division 51 had arrived to support them. The white-haired leader tried to persuade Manager Kim to surrender. "You're surrounded. I've heard you've even impersonated one of us from Division 51, so you should know our capabilities. But there's one thing you may not know. Compared to chasing and fighting, we're even better at extracting confessions." Suddenly, a voice from behind broke the tense atmosphere. "You guys ran so fast, I almost couldn't catch up." Everyone turned around in surprise to see who had arrived. Even Manager Kim was taken aback. This guy showed up just in time. Because he couldn't reach Park Jin-cheol, Manager Kim had no choice but to have Seong Hansu notify him, just in case something went wrong. He would be his final trump card. The man with white hair immediately turned around, curiously asking who this sudden newcomer was. The other, meanwhile, tore off his shirt in a bizarre frenzy, calling himself the last trump card. Without warning, he threw a flashbang at the white-haired man, nearly blinding everyone from Section 51. Yet Park Jin-cheol acted as if nothing had happened, tossing things aside as he walked up to Manager Kim, catching up like old friends. Unexpectedly, the white-haired man forced himself to shoot through the blinding light, cutting them off. Park Jin-cheol didn't take it lying down either, tossing a grenade at him in return. As the explosion thundered and the smoke cleared, only he and Manager Kim were left standing on the field. He kept chattering to those lying on the ground, nagging so much that even the white-haired man woke up. What on earth is this guy talking about? On the escape route, Manager Kim told him that he had already prepared a glider. All the underground tunnels had been blown up, and since he couldn't swim either, the glider was their only way out. I hid it by the river, he said. But Park Jin-cheol waved his hands wildly. We'll never get away in that thing. Right then, he spotted an inflatable dinghy. This is more reliable. But where's the motor? Of course, Manager Kim had hidden the motor as well. He had always planned for contingencies. But just as he finished attaching the motor, the sound of pursuers' footsteps echoed behind them. Manager Kim hurriedly urged him to get on the boat, but Park Jin-cheol still didn't move. I heard what happened to you. You have to make it back alive. Before Manager Kim could react, Park Jin-cheol kicked the dinghy, sending it flying several meters down the water. As Manager Kim shouted in anger, Park Jin-cheol simply grinned and saluted him. Go on ahead. I promise you, Park Jin-cheol will make it back alive. With that, he grabbed a grenade and turned to face the oncoming enemies. There wasn't a trace of fear in his eyes. If you want to survive when you're backed into a corner, you have to risk everything. That's the only way out. That was the truth he'd learned after 5 years of bloodshed in Somalia. Watching the firelight blaze on the riverbank, Manager Kim stood frozen, his heart a tangled mess of emotions. This is the story of me and your father. Surprised, aren't you, Minji? Hearing the tale, Minji looked skeptical, doubt written all over her face. Seeing her expression, Park Jin-cheol laughed and said, If you don't believe me, go ask your dad. Uncle never lies. So be good to your father, all right. To him, you're the precious fruit of their love, truly priceless. And because of this whole thing, your dad even contacted that old man. Who knows what price the old man will make him pay? He might have to suffer a little for it. At that moment, the police finally arrived. When they saw the carnage at the scene, they were stunned, immediately drawing their guns and ordering everyone to put their hands up. Seong Hansu and Park Jin-cheol paid them no attention, instead turning to look at Minji. To your father, you are his entire world. Just then, Manager Kim rushed forward and pulled his daughter into a tight embrace. I'm sorry, I messed everything up. You might have to transfer to another school. Hearing this, Minji couldn't hold back her tears. Dad, are you stupid? Does any of that even matter now? I never want to leave you again. Promise me no matter what happens, you won't leave me. Father and daughter reunited, and so the story reached its end. But for Manager Kim, a brand new journey was only just beginning.